Happy Tuesday morning, everybody. Put your locations in the comments, and we're going to get started in a moment. We got a lot to get to this morning. As usual, there's a lot of mileage in this situation that just occurred for a good reason. As y'all coming in again, shout yourselves out in the comments. Tell me your locations in the comments, and we will get started momentarily. Let me get my everything going where it's supposed to be on every platform. If you haven't sent me a text message yet and got into my text community, which is free to join, send a text to the number 305-384-6894 so you're in my text community. Those daily motivation messages come out every morning. Weekly motivation comes out every Monday. So as y'all are coming in, again, shout yourselves out in the comment section. Tell me your location. Text message number is, I thought I moved this. Should we put it on that side? Put it on this side. Text message number 305-384-6894. And shout yourselves out as y'all are coming in. Let me make sure we are good over here. We got several different platforms running at the same time, so we got to make sure everything's working as it's supposed to. Get that sound off. Get this one working. There we go. All right, so we are live on YouTube. YouTube is at DreAllDay. Good morning, YouTube. Live on Rumble. Rumble is at DreAllDay. Good morning. It says we are active on X. Let me hold on. I saw somebody race hustling on X, and I just responded to them. So let me make sure that went through. That's done. Let's check over on X. Am I live? Yes, I'm live on X. Good morning. On X is also DreAllDay. Live on Facebook. Facebook/Work on Your Game University. We are live there. Live on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is at DreAllDay. Live on Instagram. DJ Nada2 from the Bronx. Shout out to the Bronx, New York. I had a dream that I was on a game show and they told me I had to fly out. I had to fly to the Bronx for the next leg of the game show like 2 days ago. It was specifically the Bronx. So shout out to the Bronx, New York. We are live over on TikTok. TikTok is Work On Your Game, at Work On Your Game. Tell me your locations as y'all are coming in, and like the live. Everybody on TikTok, please like the live as y'all coming in. Courtney, good morning with the first comment. Gemini Gypsy, good morning. Tell me your locations as y'all are coming in on TikTok. Giga Dad checking in from North Carolina. Good morning. Dwayne Mitchell, Detroit's in the building. Murphy the Mutt, Bristol, Tennessee. Traditional all day. Yes. Please tap the screen as you're coming in. Nikki checking in from Connecticut. Good morning. As y'all coming in, shout yourselves out. I'm just shouting out a couple people in the comments. Candace from New York. Good morning. Traditional from Charlotte. Good morning. Sherry 1967 from Michigan. Ron Johnson from Lima, Ohio. DYM from New Mexico. Shout out to New Mexico. I don't know if I've ever had anybody shout themselves out from New Mexico since I've been doing these lives. But shout out to New Mexico. Shout out to Santa Fe. I have actually been to New Mexico. Mary M from San Antonio. Good morning. Maria Lopez. Good morning from Puerto Rico. Mab Ties, Montgomery, Alabama's in the building. Where was I? Holistically Managing MS from Savannah, Georgia. Good morning. Marky Man 007 checking in from Sacramento. Carla, Indiana. Good morning. Stacy D from Maryland. Angela from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Tez NY from Virginia. Good morning. Marcy, thank you for the follow. Coy Leg said he said something about Donald Trump. So there we go already. Somebody already said something about Donald Trump. Just for the record, folks, Donald Trump is not the topic here today, but I appreciate you doing that because I get to use this sound.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Donald Trump is not the guy today. All right, but I appreciate you bringing up his name anyway. Jose from Texas. Good morning. Crim De La Crim, homie. I see what you did there. Massachusetts is in the building. John from upstate New York. Murphy the Mutt, thanks for the share. Austin from Missouri. Tamara from Minnesota. Samantha Wood from Ohio. Amparo from Southwest Florida. All right, shout out to Naples. Shout out to Fort Myers. Shout out to Southwest Florida. Beautiful place. Very quiet. Clean. Annie AFF from Kentucky. L. Johnson from New Jersey. Shout out to Jersey in the building. Shout out to Woodbury. Shout out to Woodbridge. Shout out to Newark. Shout out to Jersey City. Shout out to Philadelphia. Shout out to Camden. All right, I'm from Philadelphia, PA. I'm based in South Florida, but I'm from Philadelphia. Georgia's in the building. Boss man JC. Billie Jean, good morning. Stewart Winslow from Spartanburg, South Carolina. Shout out to South Carolina. Stoney Santana, good morning to you. Thank you for the share and the follow. Mark B from McDonough, Georgia. Carolyn Rudder from Oakwood, Georgia. Georgia's heavy in the building here today. Badger VA, good morning to you. Kuya Binya, shout out from North Carolina. So, Super Dave the Monster from Chi-Town. Miles Adamick from Detroit. So, what we're talking about here today, Dana Marie from Michigan, good morning. We're talking about this Charlie Kirk situation, continued fallout. Now people are getting fired over Charlie Kirk. Not over him specifically, but over things they've said about him ever since he lost his life last Wednesday. It looks like a lot of people who seem to be, I think it's fair to say these people lean to the left, bashing Charlie Kirk's legacy. Let's just call it his legacy, bashing his name, bashing his legacy in his death. They are saying, generally speaking, just directionally what people are saying is, Charlie Kirk was saying bad stuff and he was a bad guy when he was alive because of the things that he was saying that were allegedly racist and hateful and bigoted. So the fact that he's dead is okay because he was saying things that I didn't like or things that allegedly went against a certain group. So him losing his life is not a tragedy and nobody should be saying it as if it's a tragedy because he was just a bad guy. And this is why people are losing their jobs. And I say to that a couple things. First of all, this is a non sequitur. This is a frame that doesn't even make any sense.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Those of you who don't know what a non sequitur is when someone makes one point and then they connect that point to another point, but there's no real connection there. That's a non sequitur. So a non sequitur, for example, would be somebody saying, well, it's sunny outside today, so of course I got a flat tire. All right, what the hell is the connection between it being sunny outside and you getting a flat tire? There is no connection. But when people try to make the connection, that's called the non sequitur. That literally translates to it does not follow. So when people are saying Charlie Kirk said things that were racist, bigoted, hateful, etc., first of all, no, he didn't. I'd say no, he didn't. Now, he said things that people didn't like. Now, I talked about this yesterday. Charlie Kirk was a devout Christian. So anybody who's not Christian and leans more secularly probably had a problem with the way that Charlie Kirk talked about his Christianity, but that doesn't make him bigoted or hateful. Charlie Kirk said things that some black people, especially the race hustling black people, could interpret as being racist, but the things that he said, there are black people who say the same thing. So are they also racist? Do they just hate themselves as black people? Having a criticism as a white person of a black person does not make you racist. But there are a lot of black people, especially the race hustlers out there, whose full-time jobs are to look for and create these situations out of nowhere, even if they don't exist. They go and find these and make it into that. Doesn't make him racist. Charlie Kirk was being a Christian. He was against anything that fell under the rainbow flag. Y'all know what the rainbow flag is. So those people say he is bigoted, but none of those things actually make it true. Assertions do not make truth. So, and because of all these things, even if you believe it, even if you believe Charlie Kirk was racist, bigoted, hateful, even if you think that, that's just your opinion. And your opinion hardens and it molds into belief. that does not excuse saying it's okay for a person to lose their life. Because if you disagree with someone's opinion, then what you should want to do is engage with them in the open marketplace of ideas and let your opinion fight against their opinion, and let's just see which perspective wins. That's the reason why Charlie Kirk, and that's the reason you see those videos on YouTube. Charlie Kirk did one of them on his channel called, it was one at least called Jubilee, where they had a one person sitting in the middle and then the 20 people surrounding him, and then people run up to the chair and argue with him. Charlie Kirk did one of those. If you disagree with his opinion, you meet him in the open marketplace and you have a conversation with him. And if your point is better or his point is better, we'll let the audience decide. That's the way it's supposed to go. Not, oh, it's okay for him to die so he can't keep saying the thing that I don't like. Are you crazy? You hear something that you don't like, so your first thought is, not even your first thought, but your idea is that it's okay. I take solace in the fact this person died because they had an opinion that I didn't like. The First Amendment protects free speech. Lest we forget. The First Amendment protects free speech. So if you don't like what somebody is saying, they still have a right to say it. Your right is to push back against what they say with what you said. And again, the open marketplace of ideas, your idea against their idea, let's see who wins. So these people losing their jobs over this non sequitur framed idea of he said bad things, so it's okay for him to die. First of all, they deserve to lose their jobs on that alone. That's just me speaking in a little bit of a facetious way, but they sound stupid for even saying something like that. But more importantly, the real reason they lost their jobs is because they pissed off the bosses. We talked about this yesterday. You don't get a job or keep a job because you told, quote unquote, the truth, or because you had, quote unquote, facts, or because you were right or wrong. That's not how you get a job. That's not how you keep a job. Any of you who has a job, you understand this very well. That's not how you get a job. You don't get and keep a job because you told the truth. You get or keep a job because you're doing the things that the bosses want you to do. And if you start violating what the bosses want you to do, you get fired. Is this news to anybody? Does anybody not know this? Everybody knows this. This is the way jobs work. Now, before we even get into that, because actually that's the part we're going to get into here today, but I got a couple other things I want to say on top of that before we even get into that. First of all, the plot is thickening when it comes to the entire Charlie Kirk situation, as I have learned from some things I've listened to over the last 24 hours. If you listen to Candace Owens, if you don't, you should listen to the latest episode of her show. On her show, Candace Owens was talking about, Candace Owens is good friends with Charlie Kirk, for those of you who didn't know. Candace Owens was a part of Turning Point USA, which was Charlie Kirk's organization. They toured around the country and the world together for several years. I didn't even know who Candace was. I didn't know who Charlie Kirk was. We're talking the late 2010s, like 2017, 18, around that time. They were touring around the country doing a lot of stuff together. So they were very good friends. They had a difference of opinion recently because Candace had gone very strongly against Israel and Charlie was still in support of them, but it looked like the tide may have started to turn. Because what happened is Mr. Netanyahu from Israel, y'all know him, right? We talked about him extensively for a couple days, maybe about a month or two ago, around the time when the strikes between Iran and Israel were happening. Now, Charlie Kirk and TPUSA, I didn't know this, but I've come to find it out. Those who pay attention to this stuff knew it before I did. He was in bed with Mr. Netanyahu. I don't mean literally, but his organization was in bed with Mr. Netanyahu, and for a while. And it looked like, according to what Candace is saying, and according to the evidence that she supplied, it looked like Charlie Kirk was considering getting out of bed from being around Mr. Netanyahu and his entity. Everybody following what I'm saying? And he had been threatened, according to what Candace Owens said in her latest episode, he had been threatened by that side and offered a lot of money. For on one hand, they were threatening him. On the other hand, they're offering him a whole bunch of money. Here, take this money. We'll invest into you and invest in your organization and help your organization get a whole lot bigger if you keep supporting us and keep riding with us. This is Israel we're talking here. You keep doing that, then we can keep doing stuff. And according to Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk refused the money. All right, this is what she's saying in her latest episode. He refused the money. And to compound matters, and again, this is not reporting, this is just theory. The story of the suspect, Tyler Robinson, the guy we talked about yesterday extensively. According to the story that we've heard about this guy, and many who have, again, as I said, paid closer attention to this than I have, as far as the entire story of the shooter, when he got to the campus, how he got up on the building, what he was wearing, what kind of weapon he used, what happened to the weapon. Did he leave the weapon on the roof? Did he get off the roof without the weapon? He left the weapon in the woods. He put the weapon around a towel. How did he disassemble the weapon? The story doesn't add up. All right, there's some issues here. There's some questions that are unanswered right now. The story is not quite adding up as to how that alleged shooter did what they allegedly did. It doesn't add up. The story's not making sense. Maybe the person who did this is not the actual culprit as we've been told. We don't know. Again, this is just a theory. This is not a report. The timeline of when he got on campus, then he did what he did, then the person runs across the roof and the person hops off, and they have footage of this, and he had on these clothes and then these clothes, and he's walking with a limp because the gun is in his leg, and then he's not walking with a limp because the gun's not in his leg, and then the gun is in the woods, and he left a message on Discord, and he told his friends, and he confessed, and everything's not adding up, ladies and gentlemen. And we all should know by this point that when something crazy like this happens, usually the first reports that get thrown out are often not true. We can only speculate, and that's the reason why I keep using the word alleged in theory, and this is not reporting. We don't know quite yet, but this story and the timeline of the story ain't adding up. And according to people who I've heard talk about this, people who understand weaponry very well, much better than I do, they say that disassembling that type of weapon, you can't do it as quickly as he allegedly did it. Does any of you want to co-sign that in the comments? Put a cosign in the comments if any of you know anything about the weapon that he used. That to shoot it and then 30 seconds later have disassembled the entire weapon and then have it taken apart and then the whole weapon intact gets found wrapped in a towel. It's something that's just not adding up. The story's not adding up as to how any of this happened. So this is sounding somewhat again, not a report. This is sounding somewhat Lee Harvey Oswald-ish. If you understand what I'm saying. This is sounding very Lee Harvey Oswald-ish. Y'all don't know who that is. For those of you who don't know. All right, that's the guy who allegedly shot JFK. All right, Lee Harvey Oswald. But if you watch the video that I told you all about last week, it is called Everything is a Rich Man's Trick. You can find the video on YouTube. Again, it's called Everything is a Rich Man's Trick. The video is on YouTube. And that video is basically telling a story amongst many other stories, but the main story is the through line of the video is about the assassination of John F. Kennedy and how Lee Harvey Oswald was fingered as allegedly the person who did it. But if you listen to what's happening in that documentary and watch that documentary, you know there was a whole lot of people who were invested in getting rid of JFK. And Lee Harvey Oswald was the one who was blamed for it, but was he the one who actually did it? Did he actually mastermind it? Did he even shoot anybody that day? We don't know. So I'm saying all that again. This is just a theory. This is not a report. That this story is not as clean as it sounds. Let's just put it that way. The story is not as clean as it sounds. And again, it's called Everything is a Rich Man's Trick. Look it up on YouTube if you haven't listened. So all of that part is to be continued. Okay, so to be continued as we get more information. If we get more information, we might not even get more information. But that's what we got so far. Now, the topic here today is these people getting fired after Charlie Kirk passing. So there's been a wave of people getting fired, suspended, reprimanded for what they posted on the internet. Those implying that Charlie Kirk, quote unquote, deserved it because of what they view as what they say is hateful rhetoric and bigoted and racist rhetoric. So we talked about Matthew Dowd yesterday. This idiot who did the very thing that the bosses at MSNBC didn't want him doing, and he got fired. We talked about him enough yesterday. And he said how his hateful words lead to hateful actions. That was dumb. There's a columnist at the Washington Post named Karen Attiah. Did y'all hear about Karen Attiah? So we looked at Matthew Dowd yesterday. So now let's look at Mrs. Attiah. Mrs. Karen Attiah. Because I want y'all to see her. Karen. So her name is pretty active right now after what happened to her. She worked at the Washington Post. And she got fired over something that she posted on Blue Sky. So first of all, the fact that she's on Blue Sky, that tells you that she's strongly on the left. Just the fact that she's on Blue Sky. She's strongly on the left because she's on Blue Sky. So this is Karen Attiah. This is her profile picture from X. Mrs. Karen Attiah. She was an opinion columnist at the Washington Post. I guess she's still an opinion columnist, just not at the Washington Post anymore. And what she said, and I'm looking her up. So this is posted by Greg Price. Now, Greg Price is, I think he's on the right. Karen Atia posted the following. Actually, she posted her firing message when she got fired. Let me see if I can find the message of when she got fired, because her message itself is actually a pretty good thing that we can address if I can find it. All right, here it is. My only direct reference to Charlie Kirk was one post, his own words on record. So she claimed that she was quoting Charlie Kirk when she posted the following. I'm going to read what she said. She was quoting Charlie Kirk. So this is her quoting Charlie Kirk. Quote, "Black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal a white person's slot." Close quote, period. And she said, Charlie Kirk, that's exactly what he said. She said, "My commentary received thoughtful engagement across platforms, support, and virtually no public backlash. And yet, the post accused my measured blue sky posts of being unacceptable, gross misconduct, and endangering the physical safety of colleagues, charges without evidence which I reject completely as false. They rushed to fire me without even a conversation. This is not only a hasty overreach, but a violation of the very standards of journalistic fairness and rigor the post claims to uphold." So Karen Atia, all right, first of all, I have to call bullshit on Karen Atia. I don't know who Karen Atia. I don't know anything about Karen Atia, but this right here is incorrect. And I'm going to tell you why it's incorrect.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Reason why this is incorrect, because this is not what Charlie Kirk said. All right, Charlie Kirk did not say black women do not have brain processing power, etc., etc. He did not say that. What Charlie Kirk said, and this was the whole thing from Charlie Kirk's clip, was taken out of context. Let me see if I can just find the clip, because a lot of people were posting this clip and they were trying to say, well, that is what he said, or that's not what he said. And here's the clip. I'm going to let y'all listen to it. Listen closely.
Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks. We would have been Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks. We would have been called racist.
Okay. And again, this is already out of context.
They're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. They say
so that clip that I just played was what everybody's been throwing around. It's about a 27-second clip from Charlie Kirk's show, which in and of itself is taken out of context. Then people took that piece out of context and took another piece from the out of context and took more of it out of context. And then they framed it as he said black women. First of all, as all of you just heard, he mentioned, specific names. He said Michelle Obama, Joy Reid, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. He didn't say black women. And if you quote someone, here's Karen Atia's post. Again, I'm showing it to you again. She starts the post by saying that he said black woman. He put it in quotes. If you put somebody's words in quotes and just say a word of knowledge for all of you, if you say you're quoting another person and you put it in quotation marks, it must be exactly what they said, like to the letter, not a paraphrasing of what they said. He mentioned 3 women who happen to be black. You can't change those women's names to black women and then put it in quotes and say that's what he said. That's not what he said. He said these specific people, and that is pulled out of context because it's taken out of context of what he's saying. So anytime you all hear somebody being quoted on the internet, and especially if someone's trying to make them look bad, and the original clip, the clip that you see, starts and you can tell is in the middle of a sentence, like listen to this clip, Charlie Kirk. I'm going to play you from the very beginning of the clip that's going around the internet. Just listen.
Joy Reid and Michelle Obama.
So just from that, you can tell that it's starting in the middle of a sentence. They started the clip in the middle of a sentence to cut it off to do what? Remove context. When you remove context, you can make somebody look crazy or sound crazy by clipping something out and not showing the entirety of the direction of the message and the spirit of the message that they're giving. And this is what Karen Atia, this columnist who's talking about journalistic fairness standards. She's talking about standards of journalism. This is what she's trying to use to defend herself. Standards of journalism. After she clearly violated it and lost her job because of it, now she's claiming standards of journalism. Really, Karen? Really? You're claiming standards of journalism after you just quoted, quote unquote, quoted something that is inaccurate, and then you try to use it as a way of attacking a guy. And then she said, this is what she said. My commentary, this post that she put up, this received thoughtful engagement across platforms. She said that as if that means it must be good because it got thoughtful engagement. So first of all, you posted it on Blue Sky. So who's on Blue Sky? A whole bunch of people who are hard, very strongly on the political left. Of course it got thoughtful engagement because they all agreed with it. And they co-signed it. None of them had the balls to say it themselves, but they co-signed it. And now she's saying, well, that must mean it was good because a bunch of people agreed with it. This is known as the bandwagon fallacy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Those who know what the bandwagon fallacy is, that's a fallacy when someone tries to justify their behavior by saying a whole bunch of people agree with it. A whole bunch of people agree with me, so that must mean that I'm right. Or a whole bunch of people disagree with you, so that must mean that you're wrong. That's the bandwagon fallacy. A whole bunch of people agreed with a whole bunch of stupid things in the past. A bunch of people thought that a faster horse and a faster buggy was a preferable idea to a car. All right, does that mean it is smart? No. So just the fact that she even defended herself with that, and Karen looks like she's over the age of 40 and a female, and she's talking about journalistic standards, and she's using justifications of a 12-year-old. All right, this makes no sense, Karen. What are you doing? Well, we know what you're doing. Right now, you're looking for a job, but you're probably starting a podcast. But really, what are you doing? This makes no sense. And they say that the post came to her. They told her that her post was unacceptable and it was gross misconduct, and she immediately got fired. And she said they fired her without even a conversation. Well, Karen, you had a conversation by making this post on Blue Sky. Now, you started the conversation by making this post. All right, so you got what you asked for. So she says it was a hasty overreach. Well, let's go back to we got to go back to one of my absolutisms. And one of my absolutisms is the person who writes the checks decides what's hasty, what's not, what's fair, and what's not. That's the way fairness works, ladies and gentlemen. In case any of you didn't know. Fairness, in terms of everybody getting an equal say, that ends when you graduate from kindergarten. Everywhere from first grade on, fairness is based on who has the power and who has the control. So when you work at a job, and she had a job at the Washington Post, the bosses decide what's fair. All right, when you work there, you don't get to decide what's fair. You can say something, but if they don't agree, so what? If you said something. What you think doesn't really matter when you ain't the one writing the check. This is the way it works. Again, I'm not saying this is not specifically about Karen. This is about anybody. Any job you work at, the bosses decide what's fair and what's not fair. And if you don't like it, okay. You want to keep working here, you want to leave. But I just told you what's fair and what's not because I'm the one writing the check. So Karen Atia, she got fired over this post, and a lot of people were trying to argue the semantics of this. They tried to make it a semantical argument, and someone tried to say, well, when you mention 3 or 4 black females, I think it was another name mentioned. I think Nicole Hannah-Jones is another name that might have been mentioned. It was somebody, Joy Reid might have been another name. So it was Michelle Obama, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Joy Reid, and some other person. It doesn't even matter. It was 4 black, prominent named black females that Charlie Kirk said in his example. And what he was saying is if you said those people were DEI hires, then people would have been saying that's crazy because then you'd be saying that those people don't have the brain power to get a job. And you'd be saying that's crazy if we were saying that, but we're not saying that. But you're trying to come out, you're coming out and saying, these people are DEI hires. You're coming out and saying that you don't have the brain power to get your own job. He was criticizing DEI. He was just using those women as an example to frame his point. And if you heard the entirety of the clip in full context, which I can't play on TikTok, because TikTok's going to give me a warning for playing other people's content. Y'all got to go find it yourselves. But it's all available on the internet. Not the 27-second clip. Go find the 10-minute clip. You find the whole thing that he said. Then it makes perfect sense what he's saying. It's not even incendiary. It's not even anything to get excited about because nothing exciting in it. It's just him criticizing DEI, which millions of people have done, including myself. Now, she went and tried to say that she was, or not her, a bunch of her defenders, I guess, if you want to call these people. They're not really defending her. What they're defending is the idea of a black female getting fired over bashing Charlie Kirk. That's really what they're defending. Karen, they don't really give a damn about you. You just happen to be the face of what the point that they're trying to make. So she goes and gets fired. And she said it's a violation of standards of journalistic fairness and rigor. All right, please. First of all, Karen, you want to talk about journalistic fairness and rigor. The first thing is, if you're going to quote a person, you must use their exact words, not your version of their words. So you cannot take, if I was to say, let's say some white men. If I was to say Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk and Alex Jones and who's another white person? Gavin Newsom, and let's get one more person, Jerry Jones. If I said those 5 guys and then started continuing with my comment, you can't quote me and say white men. No, I said these 5 guys. There are millions, tens of millions of white men. So you can't take me mentioning 5 white men and then say, well, what I meant was white men. And you can't take me mentioning 3 or 4 black females and then quote me and say what I meant was black women. No, that's not what he said. He said these specific people. And it's the same thing that happened with Kanye West. Some of you may remember when he started going hard on the J people, and he came out and he said, these J people are holding back my career and getting in my way, and they're taking away my money, and they're slowing me down. They're trying to block me and blackball me. Y'all remember that whole thing with Kanye? That's basically when he really got canceled. When Kanye really got canceled is when he started going at the J people. And the mistake that Kanye made, if Kanye had asked me, the mistake that he made was he came out and he said the entire group. That's what he said. He said J people. That's what he said. and I'm just saying the word J, but he said the entire name. That was a mistake by Kanye because he was putting a blanket over an entire group of people, which was stupid of him. He should have said this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. That's what he should have said. He should have called them out by name and said the specific people who are in his way. Then he would have been accurate. But if you go and put it on an entire group, well, now you're putting a target on yourself because, first of all, that's stupid of you to do. And secondly, now you're allowing the entire group to push back on you. And that's exactly what happened to Kanye. And that was a bad idea for him to have said that. Now, again, he called out specific people and they all happen to be J people, that's completely okay because he could just say, this guy, you did this, him, he did that, this person's doing this person's doing this. If you can tell me specifically why you're saying them and they just happen to be of the same persuasion, hey, so be it. But if you say the entire group, all right, now you're in hot water. So Karen Atia, basically she deserved to get fired. She asked for this. She asked for the attention. You got it. And as the saying goes, when you call for attention, you can't hang up. Now, corporations like Delta, Microsoft, Office Depot, NASDAQ, they have also, for different reasons, disciplined or terminated employees who made celebratory or mocking social media posts about the shooting and the death of Charlie Kirk. Other places, universities in states like Mississippi, Tennessee, South Carolina, have either suspended or fired faculty. I've seen stories about these. Clemson had one where they fired somebody. I saw Tennessee posted something about firing somebody. And or initiating investigations into staff who have made disparaging comments. Basically, people on the internet talking crazy about Charlie Kirk. The Carolina Panthers, they fired a PR staffer over insensitivity about Charlie Kirk. So the criticism from many of those who have been fired is that their remarks were taken out of context, that they weren't celebrating violence, but speaking about broader issues like Charlie Kirk's past remarks. I say this is called the Mott and Bailey fallacy. The Mott and Bailey fallacy is when someone gets caught doing something that looks bad, and then when you call them out on the shit they were doing, they try to make it sound like they were doing something that was a lot nicer than what they were actually doing. Or they get caught doing something bad and they say, well, I was just doing this. So it's like if you have cookies on the stove that you just cooked and you tell little Johnny, don't touch those cookies, and then you catch Johnny putting his hands on the cookie plate and you say, Johnny, didn't I tell you not to touch the cookies? And Johnny says, oh, well, I was just wiping off the counter. See, that's the Mott and Bailey fallacy. Like, you knew what you were doing. You were trying to steal the cookie. You thought you weren't going to get caught. You got caught. Now you're trying to make it sound like what you were doing was something innocent when you got caught red-handed doing some bullshit. That's the Mott and Bailey fallacy. People saying, well, I was just talking about his remarks. Yes, right now, right after he died, right after he got shot, all of a sudden you have something to say about his remarks. And you're making it seem like, and you're saying it in a way that you're trying to give yourself plausible deniability that you weren't celebrating it, but you're just bringing it up right now at this time, in this context. Doesn't make any sense. And the reality is, this shit's not flying anymore. That's what's happening. That's what's happening, is that this is not flying anymore. And had Donald Trump not won in November, this would not be happening. We wouldn't be talking about this here today. Had Donald Trump not won, had Kamala Harris won, and Charlie Kirk still got shot last Wednesday, these people would not be getting fired. But since Donald Trump did win, which meant America as a whole spoke to these big organizations, they know that they can't tolerate this anymore. But had he not won, this would be okay. So for the people who got fired, I understand. I understand that had the temperature and the climate not been what it is, you could have said the exact same thing and nothing would have happened. But because the climate is what it is, you misread the room and you paid for it with your job. All right, that's what happened. This is how life works, folks. This is, I talk about this, I was talking about this a lot yesterday, pragmatism. Any of you haven't read the writings of Niccolo Machiavelli or Robert Greene more contemporarily, this is how life works. That you could do the exact same thing on Monday and it's completely okay, nobody cares. Do the same thing on Tuesday and it could destroy your entire career. Even though you did the same thing yesterday, nobody cared. Why? Because the temperature changes. You got to adjust for the weather. All right, if you walk to work every day, you should check the weather. It might rain. All right, carry your umbrella. All right, it's going to be hot. All right, you don't need that jacket. It's going to be cold. Bring a jacket. But if you misread the room and you miscalculate and then you make a mistake, well, ignorance is no excuse. Ignorance is not an excuse for doing something that ends up hurting your situation. So there were a couple other situations where people got fired. Let me give you a couple examples. So Matthew Dowd, we talked about yesterday. Matthew Dowd is some old white man. So Karen Atia looks like a young-ish black woman. She got fired. Matthew Dowd, an old balding white man, he got fired too. So there's not a racial thing. You're talking dumb, you're getting fired. All right, this is applying to everybody now. So Karen and Tia, she went on Blue Sky, which is, I guess, a safe space for leftists who are afraid to be on X after Trump won in November. Blue Sky took off after November 5th, 2024, by the way. I saw a bunch of people who are leftists who I was following on X, because I follow people on both sides. I was following a bunch of them on X, and a bunch of them announced, hey, I'm on Blue Sky, and they all jumped over to Blue Sky because I guess they needed a safe space and a safe space, basically, to talk amongst themselves after Trump won, because I guess they didn't want to deal with anybody who wasn't feeling the what's the word I want to use? Disappointment, for lack of a better term, that they were feeling. So she's on Blue Sky. She said his past statements over brain processing power, and again, she was trying to frame it in one way and basically clowned herself. And now she's trying to use the Mott and Bailey fallacy. We know about that. Now, I already mentioned a couple other companies who have disciplined or fired employees. Universities in states like Mississippi, Tennessee, and South Carolina. Let me see if I can find that post, because I know I saw one from Clemson. Let me find it on my profile, because I retweeted a couple of these over the last couple of days. By the way, if you haven't texted me yet, my number 305-384-6894. Get in my text community. So Clemson posted this one just yesterday. So this one got 3.9 million views on X. I'm going to read this one to you. Here's what Clemson says. Following an immediate and deliberate investigation into inappropriate social media content, Clemson today terminated an employee due to their social media posts. After being notified on Friday to stay out of the classroom, 2 faculty members have now been removed from their teaching duties, pending investigation for termination. So a couple of them got to get due process, and they're about to get fired. The university will continue to follow processes with urgency. As these are personnel matters, no further details are available at this time. Clemson University's commitment to the safety and well-being of our campus community remains our top priority. So, again, long story short, folks, big entities are no longer tolerating this shit. They're not tolerating it anymore because people out here talking crazy. Get another one. Lives of TikTok posted this one. This one got 6 million views on X 2 days ago. A nurse at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, she said this. This is the woman who said it. I don't know what this woman's name is, but this is the woman. Here's what she said. She said, fuck his kids, fuck his ancestors, especially the B who birthed him. And I'm trying not to curse so much. TikTok sometimes doesn't like all the profanity. Especially the BITCH who birthed him. She got fired. And she posted the whole curse words. She posted that on, I don't know what app this is, but she posted this. And Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, relax son, I'm recording. Children's Healthcare of Atlanta is aware of inappropriate comments made on social media by an employee yesterday. Son, relax. He's 3 years old. All right. Children's Healthcare of Atlanta is aware of inappropriate comments made on social media by an employee yesterday. This type of rhetoric is not acceptable for children's employees and violates our social media policy. This employee has been terminated. So this person got fired, and there was one other that might have been the same one from Clemson. Let me see if I can find it. I'm just looking at my own timeline because I know I retweeted a couple of these from last week. And I'm not seeing it. All right, so maybe that's the only one. Maybe I just responded to a couple others. So let's continue back to where we were. Let me introduce myself before we get into more of this. For those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as DreAllDay. Somebody said I'm missing being 3 one day. Yes, one day. One day. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as DreAllDay. Former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, done a few TED Talks. I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do here is we help you command the room with presence, aura, energy, discipline, confidence, performance, all done through systems. You can learn more about working with me by going to the link in my profiles or my whichever app you happen to be watching me on. So those people who have been fired are being held to company or institutional social media policies, and these posts that glorify or excuse violence are treated as misconduct. And the reality is, just in case any of you didn't know, any of you have been sleeping under a rock, what you say personally, not necessarily privately, but personally, even off of company time, can affect your employment and whether you get to stay on company time. This is how it works now. You can't go and say something on social media, even though you were off the clock, and have it not affect what happens when you're on the clock. This is the game. So anything and everything you say can and will be used against you. This is the way employment works these days, especially when you're in a big organization that might have anything connected to let's say they're taking government money, or you are getting tax breaks from the government, such as universities, you got to be careful what you say. And if you work for a company like the Washington Post, by the way, for those of you who don't remember the story about the Washington Post several months ago, any of you know who owns the Washington Post? And I'm going to connect this and help y'all understand why this woman, Karen Atia, the real reason why they came down so quickly and so heavily on her. Do any of you know who owns the Washington Post? Someone said the recent lives on YouTube only 1 minute long. All right, we'll fix that. It might just be this YouTube streaming. YouTube streaming has been tripping the last few days. Anybody know who owns the Washington Post? Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, the Amazon guy. He owns the Washington Post. Now, what happened, and Talks with Destiny knows, Jeff Bezos, Vivian knows, Lisa knows, a few of you know. Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. He put, Will Avilas, I see you over there over on Instagram. Crespo said, 3 years old, have a few 3-year-old grandkids. Yeah. So, Jeff Bezos, last November, the Washington Post traditionally had done this thing where all of their opinion columnists, they would come together and they would decide who's the person that we want to endorse for president for this particular election. They do it every 4 years. They come out and they say, we as a newspaper, we are endorsing this candidate. And they take this as a big, serious thing, like, hey, we get to endorse such and such person. So in 2024, Jeff Bezos announced in October, hey, we, the newspaper, we are not endorsing anybody. We're not doing an endorsement. Nobody's getting endorsed. We're just going to report straight up and down what the news is, and we're not going to pick a side politically. And a bunch of people in the opinion desk, on the opinion desk of the newspaper, got angry, and they took to social media to complain about the fact that their boss just told them, you're not going to endorse anybody. And they were all saying, well, it's part of our tradition to do this, and we're opinion columnists, and we can share our opinion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Jeff Bezos responded with a public letter. Many of you didn't notice this, I'm assuming. A bunch of you saying you have no idea that this happened. But this is a big news story when he announced it. And what Jeff Bezos said, I'm paraphrasing. Y'all can go look up the letter because the letter is available online. Let me see if I can find the letter. It's a little bit lengthy, but I'm not going to read the entire thing. But the letter that he sent to... He wrote an editorial that he published in the magazine that he owns. And he said, let me see if I can find it. Jeff Bezos announces... I'm looking for the letter that he sent to his team where he explained why he did this. January 16th, hundreds of Washington Post staff have sent letters, hundreds of Washington Post staff. Plead for a summit. So there's another thing where they're asking for help, but I'm not going to pull it up right now. Long story short, here's what Jeff Bezos said. He said that according to research, the mainstream media is the least trusted entity in the United States of America, overtaking the previous leader, which was Congress. Congress was the group that was least trusted, but now they're second to worst, and number one worst is the mainstream media. And Jeff Bezos, as owner of the newspaper, he's saying, hey, he didn't say this in so many words. This is my interpretation of his position. I own this newspaper, and me buying this newspaper is going to be a loser for me. I'm going to have invested all this money and lose my money if this newspaper goes under. One of the reasons that this newspaper is going under is because nobody trusts the mainstream media because they don't believe the mainstream media is sharing material in an objective way anymore. Everybody's picking a side. So I'm going to make sure that the Washington Post is not one of those culprits. We're going to make sure we report things on the straight up and down and the straight and narrow. We're not going to pick a side. And we're going to start showing people that we're not picking a side by not endorsing a candidate. We're not going to endorse Kamala. We're not going to endorse Trump. We're just going to straight up report on what's happening, which is what a newspaper is supposed to do. We're not going to offer an opinion, even though it was the opinion people who were going to put out an opinion. Y'all not even doing it. He said, you all aren't doing it. And if you don't like it, well, of course you can quit. And a handful of people did quit. Most of them didn't quit. Because what the hell else are they going to do? They didn't quit. But this is what he came out with back then. Now, Karen Atia, this black woman who got fired for the Charlie Kirk post, she works at the Washington Post. Now it doesn't make a little bit more sense why she just got fired. This is the same thing that I just told you about Matthew Dowd yesterday. Same thing I told you about Matthew Dowd yesterday. He works at MSNBC. They all got the same mandate last fall. All of them. MSNBC, CBS, NBC, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, they all got the same mandate. The mandate was this. Donald Trump winning the election is a loud and clear message from the masses of America that we don't want this hardcore leftist shit out in our faces anymore. We want to see some objective reporting and some objective journalism being put in our faces. Stop trying to tell us Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad every time he opens his mouth. We don't believe you. That's why America voted for Donald Trump in November of 2024. Please give us some objective journalism. If you don't, then you're going to lose our eyeballs. And if media loses eyeballs, they lose money. You lose money. You lose advertisers. You lose advertisers. Then you lose jobs and people lose their careers. So the bosses at all these organizations said, y'all gotta stop with all this anti-Trump at all cost stuff. Now we got to go back to at least looking like we're being objective. That's what they told them. We got to go back to at least looking like we're objective, even though they're not. Let's at least try. All right, at least make an effort. Okay. And Matthew Dowd coming out and saying what he said about Charlie Kirk got him fired because the bosses told him not to do that, and he did it anyway. That's why he got fired. Karen Attiah doing what she did, as I just explained to you all. She works at the Washington Post, where the boss literally told them, we are not taking sides anymore. You hop on Blue Sky, which already shows you got a side, and then you triple down on it on Blue Sky. Okay, you got fired. All right, what the hell you think this is? You get paid for your opinion. And what we're telling you is that your opinion can't lean so far to one side that it looks like you are not objective. And if you can't do that, then you can't work here. Doesn't mean Karen Attiah is wrong for having her opinion. She's entitled to whatever opinion she wants. First Amendment protects free speech. But as they say about free speech does not mean free from consequences. And when you work at a job, you are under the consequence of whoever decides whether you got a job or you don't. That's how it works. Good thing for Karen Attiah is that she could start a live stream or a podcast or a Substack, and she can say whatever the hell she wants, and there's nothing anybody can do to her. All right, welcome to entrepreneurship, Karen. You want to share your opinion without any consequences? All right, you can do it. You just got to come to the other side. You got to get on the other side of that line, and this is the way it works. So she came out with this indignation over getting fired from her job, but you want to share your opinion freely without any consequence? Well, you can't do that working at a job. That's what it is. Again, does anybody not notice? This is the way it works. When you work for someone else, there are certain opinions that you probably should keep to yourself. And I'm an entrepreneur, even I understand this. All right, there are certain opinions you should keep to yourself when you work for somebody else, because you might say the wrong thing that offends them, and they might decide you don't work here anymore because I don't like what you just said. Even if what you said is true, right, accurate, factual, and your opinion, you can still get fired. Has any of you ever seen somebody get fired for saying something that was true, right, accurate, and their opinion? And factual. Any of you ever seen that? Give me a yes in the comments if you ever seen that happen to somebody. Yes, at-will employees. That's what they're called. You're an at-will employee, which means you are hired at our will, and we will fire you at our will. For any reason or for no reason at all. All right, this is how it works. So, good thing for Karen. Again, she can start a Substack. She got a lot of attention right now. She should launch her Substack like today and put the link out, and a bunch of people will sign up and maybe pay $15 a month to read her opinions. And maybe not too many, but they'll at least sign up for the free version. All right, let's just say that. Now, employers are under pressure from public opinion and stakeholders to maintain reputational standards. This is the issue right now. Organizations that hire these people, the Matthew Dowds and the Karen Attiahs of the world, not necessarily them because they don't work there anymore, but they're under pressure from public opinion. You got to understand that when you run a company like the Washington Post or the New York Times or MSNBC, your customer is the everyday person who reads your newspaper or watches your shows. They're the customer. Because if they stop watching, then your ratings go down. When your ratings go down, the advertisers spend less money. When the advertisers spend less money, you have less money to throw around, which means people have to lose their jobs because you can't pay them anymore. So MSNBC understands we have to get some people who may lean conservative watching our network. We can't just go off the liberals going with us. And they were okay with that before November 5th, 2024. Why? Because Joe Biden was the president. So it looked like the people on the left were pretty much the majority because Joe Biden was the president. But when Trump won, they said, a bunch of people are leaning towards the other direction, and they all don't trust us. So we got to get them to trust us again. So we can't keep doing the stuff we were doing the last 4 years. So anybody gets on the air and does some of that stuff in the last 4 years, you clearly didn't get the memo, Mr. Dowd. All right, you're fired. All right, you're not listening. You're fired. That's why you got fired. Karen Attiah, exact same reason. This is the money, folks. This is what they say. Anytime you're trying to figure out why an organization is doing something that doesn't quite make sense, follow the money. And this is what happened to Karen and Matthew forgot. They thought it was all about their opinion and being high and mighty and saying something about Charlie Kirk because it looked like everybody else was doing it, but they forgot who they worked for. That's the mistake that they made. Again, it's not even that what they said is quote unquote wrong. It's just an opinion. You have whatever opinion you want. I don't have to agree with it, but you got to watch where you share your opinion, and you got to watch who's watching where you share your opinion. All right, that's the mistake they both made. Now, critics say that many of these firings are overreactions or misinterpretations, that comments were critical of Kirk and his ideology, not necessarily celebrating his death. I call bullshit on that. That is bullshit. And the reason why it's bullshit is because, first of all,
you're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
The reason why it's bullshit is that that's a very convenient Mott and Bailey fallacy that, oh, I was just talking about his ideology. Why today? Right after he got shot, you decided to talk about his ideology? Charlie Kirk been out for like 10 years. Why all of a sudden you got something to say about Charlie Kirk? Well, we know why, and it's going to be interpreted as you're commenting on his death, even if you didn't mention his death, because he just died and everybody's talking about it, and you work for the news. I mean, you can't. How are you going to explain that away? You work for a news organization. The guy who just died, now all of a sudden you got something to say about him. It's going to be connected, whether you want to claim that it wasn't connected or not. It's going to be connected. Can we agree to this? Same way that TMZ. Did y'all see this thing with TMZ? They are on, and they got, what's the guy who runs TMZ? Harvey, and what's the black guy on TMZ? I guess he's his partner. Who's the black guy with the dreads at TMZ? What's that guy's name? Every time I see TMZ videos, it's Harvey, the white guy, and then there's that other guy with the dreads. What's that guy with the dreads name? Whatever his name is. So TMZ puts this video out, and they're talking about Charlie Kirk passed away. They kind of were breaking news. Charlie Kirk passed away. And you can hear people in the background laughing. And TMZ didn't say anything about it. His name is Charles, the guy with the dreads. So whatever his, yeah, I guess say Charles. Let's assume his name is Charles. So Harvey and Charles standing there, they're talking. And, okay, so everybody's co-signing Charles. So Charles, they're standing there talking. And they announce that Charlie Kirk's passed away. And there's people in the background laughing. The video goes viral. And everybody's like, yo, why are people in the background laughing and cheering Charlie Kirk's death? So the two guys, Harvey and Charles, they put out another video. And they're looking all sad. And like, oh, we didn't mean, that's not what it was. They were watching something else. It was a car chase happening in LA, and car chase videos do come on TV in LA, and they finally ended the car chase, and that's why people were in the back cheering. Okay, Harvey. Okay, Charles. Okay. And they might have been telling the truth. Again, they might have been telling the truth. What do I tell you all these days? Everything comes down to. It comes down to optics. How does it look? It's not about what's true. It comes down to what people perceive. It's not the truth, it's the perception. The perception matters more than the truth, and as the saying goes, perception is reality. The perception of TMZ was that y'all had people in the back cheering because they didn't like Charlie Kirk. They are leftists. They don't like the fact that this guy is Christian and that he is patriarchal and that he is anti-LGBTQ and he's anti-DEI and he's a white guy. And there were people at TMZ, and TMZ ain't no Christian organization. TMZ had some people who worked there who were happy to see that happen to Charlie Kirk, and they were celebrating, and they were feeling high and mighty. It just so happened it got caught on camera. That's it. That's the only thing they did wrong. Only thing that went wrong is that they got caught on camera. It's not that they did it. It's the fact they got caught on camera. Because had it not been on camera, we wouldn't know about it. And Harvey and Charles wouldn't have had to come on camera and apologize. And why'd they come on camera and apologize? Like, just think about that. If those people were really cheering over Charlie Kirk's passing, why'd they come on TV and apologize? Because clearly, I mean, y'all run the company. They're your workers. So y'all probably feel the same way that they feel, right? They came back on TV and apologized because they can't risk their reputation by showing that they are hard on one side, because a whole bunch of people who look at their site and watch their videos will stop looking at their site and watching their videos, which will impact their bottom line. Follow the money. That's the reason they apologize, for the money. They didn't apologize because they thought it was wrong. They didn't apologize because they care about Charlie Kirk and his wife and his family. They didn't apologize because they thought it was like something just objectively they need to do. They apologized because it would affect their bottom line and affect their money. This is how it works. And if they thought it was ridiculous for people to even be saying that, they wouldn't have been on there looking all sad and forlorn like somebody died. Not Charlie Kirk, but somebody else. They were looking like that because they had to put on a show of contrition because they looked crazy. That's why they did that. And this is the way it works, folks. All this stuff is optics. All these people are acting. How many of these people are actually telling you the truth? That's up for you to decide, but I guarantee you it ain't all of them. And it's not all the time either for most of them. So people are saying that those who got fired is some kind of overreaction or misinterpretation. Well, let's go back to the absolutist point that I made earlier. All right, the person who in charge decides what's fair and what's not fair. So if I'm the boss and you work for me and I fire you and you say, hey, boss, you firing me is an overreaction. I say, okay, I overreacted. You're still fired. I'm the boss. So what if, okay, I overreacted. I got the right to overreact. You know why? Because the last paycheck you got, look at the signature at the bottom left corner or the bottom right corner. That's my signature. All right, so I'm allowed to overreact because I write the checks. So you're fired. Goodbye. Do I need to call security to escort you out, or do you want to leave on your own? All right, they say it's a misinterpretation. Okay, I misinterpreted what you did. You're still fired. Get out. All right, that's what happens when you're the boss. So these people, again, Matthew Dow can start a podcast, Karen and T can start a Substack, and they can say whatever they want, same things they've been saying, with no problem. And let's find out if your material is any good. If your material is any good, you can leave the machine that you were a part of and still be good. I mentioned Candace Owens at the top of this episode. Candace Owens got bigger after she got fired from the Daily Wire than she was when she was at the Daily Wire. Why? Why? Because she's actually good. Again, you don't have to like Candace Owens. You don't have to agree with her positions. But you can't say she's not good because she got bigger after she got fired. Now, if you get smaller after you get fired, Joy Reid, Don Lemon, well, what does that say about the substance that you were bringing to the table? Hey, again, don't shoot the messenger. No pun intended. So free speech defenders warn of, oh, this is quote-unquote cancel culture. This is cancel culture now, is what people are trying to say. Any negative assessment of a public figure gets punished harshly. I say no. This is a whitewashing of what's happening. All right, Charlie Kirk was a hardcore conservative. He stood next to Donald Trump, as close as you can get without actually being in the government. Excuse me. Next to Elon Musk, he was the most important person who's not a politician to help Donald Trump win the 2024 election. We've said that every day we've been talking about it. If there was a hierarchy, is Donald Trump at the top, then you got Elon and Charlie Kirk are both right there at the second level when it comes to why Donald Trump won in 2024. He is a devout Christian, openly Christian. He is openly patriarchal, openly against DEI, and openly against the LGBTQ. All right, so how many people do you piss off with all four of those? Trump / conservative. Let's just say Trump, because Trump means also MAGA. It also means conservative. Then you're Christian. Then you're patriarchal. You don't like DEI and you don't like the rainbow flag. How many friends do you have left after all five of those? All right, so Charlie Kirk had a whole lot of people who didn't like him or what he stood for. It wasn't so much about him. It was about what he stood for that they didn't like. So people are saying this is cancel culture because you're negatively assessing a public figure. I say bullshit. No, that's not what it was. It was people saying that it's okay what happened to Charlie Kirk because the things that Charlie Kirk stood for and represented while he was alive were bad enough that it's okay, his outcome being his outcome because of the things that he stood for. And I have said already, since I said this, what's today? Today's Tuesday. I said this on Monday yesterday. I said it on Friday as well, and Thursday. If you're celebrating the death of another person because you didn't like their opinion, you've lost your mind. I don't care who the person is. Now, again, if you celebrate the death of bin Laden, okay. All right, because he actually did things materially to people that physically hurt them and physically took lives. So you celebrate that, I'm all right with that. When Obama announced that they found him, everybody celebrated in the streets. I'm okay with that one because that guy actually did something materially to people. But because you don't like somebody's opinion, no. And had something like this happen to, God forbid, let's say President Trump, it would be 100 times bigger than even what we're talking about right now. Because not everybody even knows about Charlie Kirk. Most people didn't know who he was. A lot of people didn't know who he was before this. He was just another face, another white person supporting Donald Trump, and there's a whole bunch of them. But since he passed, now all of a sudden everybody wants to dig into his stuff. That's why you're getting so much stuff taken out of context, because people never heard him in context. But you should. Now, in some cases, people who were fired apologized quickly after the backlash. For example, Stephen King. Y'all see Stephen King, the author, the guy who writes books. I never read any Stephen King stuff. My mom had a bookshelf. When I was a child, she had a bookshelf worth of Stephen King books. I'm assuming he was a pretty good writer. He has a reputation of being a very good writer, Mr. King. Let me see if I can find what Stephen King said. He was sounding stupid. And, I mean, he's so well known that I still know who he is, even though I never read a single one of his books. So Stephen King has 6 million followers on social media. And he just announced 21 minutes ago, this guy named Robert Redford passed away. Did y'all know that? I know Robert Redford passed away. I'm not a big movie person, but Robert Redford passed away. Let me see if I can find the dumb thing that Stephen King said, because he came out and apologized. So Stephen King is one of the few people who actually said something and apologized. And you got to show him respect for apologizing simply because he apologized. Now, a bunch of people said a bunch of dumb stuff and didn't apologize. So Stephen King, 4 days ago, this was on the 12th, which was, what day was the 12th? Today is the 16th, so 15, 14, Friday. So Stephen King at 8 in the morning on Friday, he said, I apologize for saying Charlie Kirk advocated stoning gays, which is what Stephen King intimated. He put out a post that said, well, Charlie Kirk was okay with stoning people of the rainbow flag, so that he was basically intimating that it's okay what happened to Charlie Kirk because of that. And then Stephen King follows up and says, what he actually demonstrated, he being Charlie Kirk, was how some people cherry pick biblical passages. Because what Charlie Kirk was actually saying, and again, this is another piece from Charlie Kirk that's been circulating amongst the LGBTQ community. This is one of the justifications that's been circulating, that Charlie Kirk said that it's okay for people who are LGBTQ to be stoned to death. That's not what he said. What he was saying was a quote. He was quoting, selectively quoting, as Stephen King says here accurately, selectively quoting the Bible. He was taking something out of the Bible that's in there that intimates that. Charlie Kirk was repeating it. What someone did was take the entirety of Charlie Kirk's statement where he was saying that in a conversation, because Charlie Kirk did a lot of these debates. Obviously, he did a whole lot of debating, and he would even debate on his own show. Not with other people, but he would debate with points. He would make a point, then he would debate against it and make his argument. And people went and took that out of context and took that little 10-second clip and said, oh, Charlie Kirk said that if you're a rainbow, you should get stoned to death. That's not what he said. And then Stephen King, this guy who writes 300-page novels, he goes and looks at the little clip and decides to go make a post on social media off of the little clip instead of getting the full context. Stephen, what are you doing? Now, I understand Stephen King's probably 70-something years old. He probably gets a senior citizen's discount at Cracker Barrel when he goes and eats there. But this is still not acceptable. So after he said that, Gad Saad, you heard of Gad Saad, pretty smart guy, he called Stephen King an execrable person. I don't even know what that word means. Execrable. E-X-E-C-R-A-B-L-E. Execrable. And that means extremely bad or unpleasant. So this is what God said had to say about Stephen King. He called him execrable. This is a word of the day, everybody. Execrable. Execrable person was what God said called Stephen King. And then a bunch of people went and trashed Mr. T-A-T-E, his brother, not the main guy, but his brother. He said, as a prominent figure, I suggest you research before you blurt things out at such a sensitive cultural moment. Gay Republicans owned you in the replies. Be ashamed of yourself. So he was basically getting trashed in the replies. And to Stephen King's credit, he did not take this post down. He got 15 million views, and the post is still there. But the one where he actually said the initial thing, he did take that one down. But he did apologize for what he said. And then people went out, and he got trashed for a couple more days. And he deserved to get trashed for saying what he said. Institutions. So some people being fired after backlash, they recognize that they cross the norms of empathy, even if they believe in criticizing rhetoric. And someone was asking me yesterday, can I talk about the difference between empathy and sympathy? Now, since I just mentioned the word empathy, let's talk about it. Let's just go get clear definitions of these words. I am an absolutist when it comes to the definitions of words. Even if I choose to use a slightly different definition, I will give you my definition before I talk about a term so that everybody can be on the same page. I like to be on the same page with my audience. You don't have to agree with me, but I want you to know where I'm coming from. So definition of empathy is the action of understanding, being aware of, and being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experience of another. Everybody heard that? All right, that's the definition of empathy. And then someone was asking me yesterday, can I talk about the difference between empathy and sympathy? Okay, let's get a definition of sympathy. An affinity, association, or relationship between persons or things wherein whatever affects, An affinity, association, or relationship between persons or things wherein whatever affects one similarly affects the other. So sympathy is about you basically feeling the same emotion that another person is feeling. That's sympathy. Empathy, on the other hand, is understanding the feeling that another person has. That is the main difference between the two. So I can be empathetic and understand that your stomach hurts because you drank too much alcohol last night and you had some pizza and you can't get out of bed. I can empathize that you feel like shit because of that feeling that you have. But my stomach does not hurt because I didn't eat any pizza and I didn't drink any beer. See, sympathy would be me laying on the bed and writhing in pain with you. Empathy is, I understand that you're laying on the bed. I understand that you're drunk. I understand that you got a hangover. I understand, yeah, I know you're never going to drink again. Yeah, I heard you. You told me that 2 months ago. And here we are again. I understand. All right, I can empathize with you, but I do not sympathize with you. That's the difference between empathy and sympathy. So because somebody asked me about that yesterday, now we've weighed that out. So this suggests that some institutions are also reacting to optics and public sentiment, not just rules. And I say, hell fucking yeah, they are. Welcome to 2025, everybody. Welcome to 2025, everybody. This is where we are. Institutions are reacting to optics and public sentiment. They are not just going by rules. And any of you read your employment contracts and you read the terms and conditions of any one of these apps that we're all on, they have catch-alls in there. What is a catch-all? A catch-all is basically they say somewhere in there in their own language, listen, even the things that we haven't laid out in detail in here, if we decide we got a reason to fire you, we will fire you. And we got a right to, and you sign right there, that means we can fire you anytime for any reason. That's the catch-all. All right, your contract does not guarantee you employment. Institutions are responding to optics, and they can't deal with negative headlines. Negative headlines cost money. To large institutions, negative headlines cost money. You got to think about these colleges. Now, why would a college like Clemson University fire somebody for what they said? Why do they really need to fire somebody? If y'all really think about that, why does it matter? Does anybody know the answer? Somebody put the answer in the comments. Why does a college need to fire a professor for saying some insensitive things about Charlie Kirk? Now, yeah, they could fire him because they just don't like what they said. Besides that part, besides the boss not liking it, what's the real reason that they would fire somebody who said something negative about Charlie Kirk? Let's see. Carolyn Rudder, you're going in the right direction. Paulo Davis, you're going in the right direction. Hannah, you're right too. I mentioned that earlier, but it's really user. You got it right. Yeah, a bunch of you saying the same. It's two things that I'm looking at, and a bunch of you are saying it. One is and a bunch of you are saying money. Yes, of course, it's the money. Yes, it's the optics, but it's why. It's first of all, if let's say I'm a conservative parent and I live in South Carolina and I went to Clemson 40 years ago and I want to send my kids to Clemson. But I'm conservative. And there's a professor working at your university who just trashed Charlie Kirk's legacy after he passed away. And I'm looking at that and I see some professor at Clemson is trashing Charlie Kirk's legacy and Clemson, doesn't do anything about it. Well, that tells me that Clemson is okay with trashing a conservative death. I'm not sending my kids to Clemson. And that's how much does it cost to go to Clemson? Let's find out. Let's find out the tuition to go to Clemson. Clemson tuition 2025. Y'all want to guess how much it is? Somebody give me a guess. How much you think the tuition is to go to Clemson for 1 year? The tuition actually, according to what I'm reading right here, in-state and out-of-state is the same amount of money, interestingly enough. Anybody want to guess the tuition to go to Clemson? So I see 40, 25, 55, 65, 40, 70, 38, 25. It's $40,000 a year. Tuition to go to Clemson is $40,866 per year. Additional costs, the books are another $1,500. That is a scam. You want to talk about a scam? College textbooks is one of the biggest scams running. On-campus room, so if you want to live on campus, they didn't even factor in the housing yet. So if you want to live in a dorm on campus, that's another $8,000. So now the price is up to $50,000. So if you get books and you live on campus, your cost is actually $50,000, not $40,000. And then the total cost of attendance, when you add in everything else, it comes up to $60,000. So it's another $10,000 probably for the food. So it's actually $60,000. The sticker price is $40,000, but then when they add in all the extras, it's kind of like you go look at a car. It says $40,000, but then when you get the floor mats, the window tinting, the sound system, the wheels, the maintenance plan, the warranty, it actually comes out to like $60,000. So it's a $61,000 a year to go to Clemson. Its tuition has increased by 25% over the last 10 years. The average in-state student at a 4-year public college is $25,000, while out-of-state students average $44,000. That doesn't even make sense, but let's just say it's $60,000 a year. So if I'm a parent and I got 2 kids and I'm thinking of sending to Clemson and I'm conservative and I see you not doing anything about this person trashing conservatives that works at your university with their job in their bio then that is $60,000 times 2. I got 2 kids, so that's $120,000 a year. Let's say both my kids are in school for 4 years. So what is that? $480,000 that you just lost, and a legacy student you just lost because their kid's not going to Clemson either. Because I'm making sure everybody doesn't go to Clemson because y'all didn't do anything. That's why they got fired. Because parents got to send, they get to decide where to send their kids. And Clemson doesn't want to become this university as just this leftist beacon. They want to be a place where you can be on the left, you can be on the right, and you can go to Clemson. They don't want to limit their audience. The university cares about that bottom line, which is the money. Actually, the top line is the money. That's what they care about. That's number one. And the other thing is they don't want to look like they are just completely insensitive because they got a bunch of students who still go there who are conservatives right now. So what message are you sending if you don't do anything about this? This is the reason why people are getting fired, is the whole optics of it. But again, if Kamala Harris was president right now, a bunch of people who got fired this last week would not have gotten fired. That's just the reality of the situation. This is the trickiness of optics and the way politics works. And politics is not just the government. Politics is the engagement between human beings to further or advance your own personal interests. That's what it comes down to. So others are pushing back hard. Others, meaning people who want to bash Charlie Kirk, they're saying that they're getting silenced for speaking the truth as they see it. That if someone high profile has a past of divisive or hateful statements, discussing those statements after a tragedy should not be condemned. Okay, so first of all, let me reread what I was just saying to you. Some people are saying that you should not be silenced for speaking the truth as you see it.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Let's get something clear. All right, there is no such thing as the truth as you see it. That is a non sequitur. There's no such thing. There's not the truth as I see it, and then the truth as you see it, and then the truth as he sees it, and the truth as she sees it. There's no such thing. There is one truth. There's not multiple truths. The truth is not proprietary. All right, so I don't have my truth, and then you have your truth, and they have their truth. There's one truth. So somebody saying that you can't silence me for speaking the truth as I see it, bullshit. That's not the truth. That's your opinion. And the reason why people started using phrases like this, my truth, or the truth as I see it, the reason people started using phrases like this is because if they said what it actually was, which is their opinion, here's the challenge. The challenge is when you tell someone you're offering your opinion, you're opening the floor to have debate about your opinion. So if I tell you I'm telling you my opinion, then I'm giving you an opportunity to challenge my opinion, because everybody knows what an opinion is. It's my perspective on the situation, and you are allowed to have your perspective. And if your perspective differs from my perspective, now we can have combat over the perspectives, and we will have a conversation, a debate, argument, whatever you want to call it. But if I come out and instead of calling my opinion, and instead I say it's my truth, now I'm closing the door for debate because I said it's my truth. You notice this little language game. This is a verbal sleight of hand that people use these days. This is the reason why my truth became a popular phrase. This is the reason. People start calling things my truth because they don't want to be debated on their bullshit. So they start calling it my truth so that you just accept it. Like, it's just the way that I see life. So I don't want you to challenge me or question me on anything. Just let me see life the way I want to see it. My name is Mike, but my name was Mike last week, but now I'm Michelle. That's my truth. All right, don't challenge me, don't question me, don't ask me anything. Just accept my truth as it is. And now you got kids walking around being told that they have to affirm somebody by their pronouns. All right, this is bullshit. This is the reason why y'all should be homeschooling your kids. Not for nothing. Not the topic here today, but I have talked about this, and I'm on the record, and I have receipts. Just to make sure everybody heard that. There is no my truth. There is no my truth. It is the truth, and everything else is an opinion. Now, everything I'm telling you here, out of what I'm telling you here, are my perspectives on things. I'm not necessarily giving you a ton of opinions. I'm giving you my perspectives, but you can call it an opinion if you want. If you disagree, you're free to do so. Free speech, protected by the First Amendment. You are free to disagree with me. You're probably wrong, but you can disagree. I'm being tongue-in-cheek here. The whole thing, though, people saying, I'm speaking truth as I see it. Okay, you can speak truth as you see it all you want, but you work for me, so you're fired. Okay, so now go speak the truth freely because you don't work for me anymore. So yes, you can speak the truth and still get fired for speaking quote-unquote the truth. And people try to defend what they say as truth or facts, like Mrs. Karen Atia. All right, that is not the truth. and she actually violated journalistic standards by quoting somebody and then not even putting their exact words in there. So if you're high profile, this is what people are saying. Charlie Kirk was high profile. He has a past of divisive or hateful statements. What did Charlie Kirk say that was divisive or hateful? Somebody put it in the comments. What did Charlie Kirk say that was divisive or hateful? I don't know what exactly did he say that was divisive or hateful? Because to say something that people disagree with does not make it divisive. If I say I don't like DEI, that's not divisive. That's just me offering my opinion. Now, if half of you don't like it and half of you do like it, that doesn't make it divisive. All it means is we just have a difference of opinion. Now, if I say something where I say, if you think this, then you should go attack everybody who thinks that, that's divisive. Because I'm telling you to go after people. I'm telling you to draw the line and attack people who are on the other side of a conversation. That's divisive. Hateful is if I say I absolutely hate this type of person, or if you think this way, I hate you, or any of you who agree with me, we should all hate people on that side. That's a hateful statement. But if we just disagree, we just disagree. So to say that Charlie Kirk had a past of divisive statements, again, there's only one way that somebody can make a divisive statement, and there's not too much divisive statements coming out of well-known public figures, so they wouldn't last too long if they were really saying divisive things. Their own fans would push back against somebody, yo, we can disagree, but we can't do that. We can't do that. Hateful statements, again, what? So discussing these things after, I'm just looking to see if anybody posted anything that Charlie Kirk said that was divisive or hateful. I don't see anything. I don't see anything. So, all right, I see you, Echoes 9711. All right, be back tomorrow. 8 a.m. Eastern is when I start these live streams. Discussing this after a tragedy, they're saying that these people shouldn't be condemned. Well, you're not getting condemned. You're just getting fired. All right, firing you is not condemning you. It's just firing you. I'm actually letting you go. I'm literally letting you go to go and say whatever you want to say with no repercussions, because now you don't answer to anybody, at least until you get your next job. So these narratives are arguing for consistency. They're saying if you pay tribute, you must also reckon with past behavior. Well, it depends on what reckon means. Depends on what you mean by that. Reckon with past behavior meaning I'm going to bash this person and you got to sit there and take the bashing just because I decide to clip out what you said and take what you said out of context, frame it as a negative thing, and then claim the moral high ground against this person who's not around to defend themselves anymore. You weren't saying this when they were alive. And there's a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of white people too. Matthew Dowd, one of them. Stephen King, another one. But a whole bunch of black people who are now trying to say, well, Charlie Kirk was just going against black people and being racist against black people. Charlie Kirk's aim wasn't really about race. His position, Charlie Kirk's whole game wasn't really racial based. Now, did he make conversation about race? Yes. Did he talk about George Floyd? Yes, he did. Did he talk about DEI? Yes, he did. Did he talk about black murder rate? Yes, he did. And guess what? Black people talk about it too. But his aim was about conservatism. Charlie Kirk's main thing was conservatism. Whether you are black, white, whatever, his main thing was conservatism. Mind you, his most prominent known person that he worked with hand in hand was Candace Owens, who's black and a conservative. So it wasn't, his main thing wasn't white against black. His main thing was conservative versus anything that's not conservative. His main thing was, let's just say liberal versus conservative. Charlie Kirk was a conservative. He was all the way on the right, and he was going against people who were all the way on the left. And that was the argument that's been going on in America politically for the last 100 years, especially the last 60. That was Charlie Kirk's aim. It wasn't race. So a bunch of black people jumping in and trying to make it seem like this is a racial discussion is complete nonsense. Speaking of such, we got to bring the black church into the conversation. The black church, and just church period, but I'm going to bring up the black church because this is the thing that I saw. So I'm going off the thing that I saw. Now, let me see if I can find this post. So I saw this post by this gentleman named Etan Thomas. Etan Thomas, for those of you who don't know, here is Mr. Thomas right here. Etan used to play in the NBA. I remember this guy. He played for the Washington Wizards for several years. And Etan says, his bio, retired NBA player. He played at Syracuse. I remember that. He is a motivational speaker, according to his bio, and he's an author. Okay, pretty much what I expect. He has a website called etanthomas.com. I've never seen this. I'm going over to his website just to see how he is framing and presenting himself. So he's in a suit holding the basketball. He's got some books that he's written and some appearances. Okay, Etan has made himself into a race hustler after his basketball career, which he has a right to do. All right, so Etan, if you're watching this, you got a right to be a race hustler if that's what you want to do. That's just the way he decided to go. He has 51,000 followers on X, and he posted a video from a pastor by the name of Howard John Wesley from a church in Washington, D.C. I'm assuming Eton lives in D.C. I'm looking at his, doesn't have a location there, but he played in D.C., so I guess maybe he stuck around. He lives in Washington, D.C. Alfred Street Baptist Church in Washington, D.C. This guy named Pastor Howard John Wesley. You ever heard of this gentleman? Now, here's what Eton quoted from the pastor. The pastor says, quote, "There is nowhere in the Bible where we are taught to honor evil, and how you die does not redeem how you live." Hold on to that statement right there. We're going to come back to that. You don't become a hero in death when you are a weapon of the enemy in life. Now, this is the pastor talking about Charlie Kirk. Now, let me see if I can play some of this.
Where we are taught Charlie Kirk did not deserve to be assassinated. But I'm overwhelmed seeing the flags of the United States of America at half-staff calling this nation to honor and venerate a man who was an unapologetic racist and spent all of his life sowing seeds of division and hate into this land. And hearing people with selective rage who were mad about Charlie Kirk but didn't give a damn about Melissa Hortman and her husband when they were shot down in their home tell me I ought to have compassion for the death of a man who had no respect for my own life. I am sorry, but there's nowhere in Bible where we are taught to honor evil. And how you die does not redeem how you lived. You do not become a hero in your death when you are a weapon of the enemy in your life. I can abhor the violence that took your life, but I don't have to celebrate how you chose to live.
So that's the clip of, again, Pastor Howard John Wesley from a church in Washington, D.C. Several problems with this. And Eton, again, he has made himself into a race hustler, so I understand his perspective. I understand he has to do what he has to do. Everybody has bills. First of all, this is a black man at a black church talking about Charlie Kirk, and he's making it about race. He said, "You don't respect my life." And he's talking about black people. That's a black church. That was a bunch of black people in that audience cheering. That was a bunch of white people in that audience cheering. What does race have to do with the church? I'm no expert in religion. I do not claim a religion. I do not go to church. I'm not a pastor. Any of you who does go to, you're a part of any religion. What does race have to do with any religion? What religion is about race? Which one? Is it Islam? Is it Judaism? Is it Christianity? Which one? I didn't know that there was one about race. How is this black man at a church making this about race? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't think religion was about race. I thought religion, and I talked about this back when, those of you who were around, when Trump got elected and he won the election in November, he went to church in D.C., not this church, but a different church, and there was a white woman on the pulpit. Some of you may have been around back then. Y'all may remember the story, even if you didn't hear me talking about it. There's a white woman on the pulpit, and she was maybe LGBTQ herself. And she was kind of trying to lecture Trump because Trump went to church and he's sitting in the front row. And she's kind of lecturing him about some of the things you said or that you represent make certain people of the LGBTQ feel unsafe because of your presence. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that preacher? All right, first of all, and again, I'm no expert on religion. So if I got this wrong, any of you can let me know. But from what I understand, logically and objectively, church is not a platform for the pastor to tell you their personal opinions. That's not what church is. When you're at the podium or on the stage at a church, you are merely a vessel for the word of the religion. So if you're a Christian preacher, pastor, deacon, whatever they call you, you are simply a vessel for the word of Christ. It is not a platform for you to tell people how you personally think. That's not what you're there for. That's not what it's for. So this guy is trying to make it a platform for, we're going to talk about black versus white. He's trying to frame Charlie Kirk as this white guy who had negative things to say about black people. Then on top of that, let's look bigger picture. He said that the way that you died does not redeem the way that you lived. Okay. So Charlie Kirk, let's say, what do we know about Charlie Kirk? We know that Charlie, yes, that's the woman. Lulu's Nana, yes. Marion Edgar Budd, yes. Charlie Kirk was a Christian, first of all. Charlie Kirk was patriarchal, second of all. Charlie Kirk was a conservative. Charlie Kirk was anti-LGBTQ, and he was anti-DEI. That's what Charlie Kirk was. If you had to say he was 5 things that we could just look up and generally say about him, these are all true. George Floyd, what was he about when he was alive? Somebody give me some answers in the comments. I'm not talking about how he died, because remember, this is what the pastor said. How you died does not redeem how you live. What was George Floyd about while he was alive? Just from what we know. It's been 5 years. We got 5 things we know about Charlie Kirk. It's been 5 days. What do we know about George Floyd when he was alive? What was he about? What was George Floyd about? Because I'm saying this to frame it, because this is what this guy's saying. This pastor, this black pastor at a black church, I doubt he's working at a white church talking like this. You can see the people behind him, they're all black. You can't see the audience. So he said how you die does not redeem how you live. Okay. So I wonder what his sermon was after George Floyd passed away. If this is his frame for Charlie Kirk. Y'all think it was the same thing? Give me a yes or a no. Think it was the same thing? Think he was saying the same thing about George Floyd when he passed that he said about Charlie Kirk now that Charlie Kirk's passed? I don't think so. I doubt it. So this is selective moralism. And selective moralism is common in human beings. All human beings have a flexible morality when it comes to their own personal interests. The problem is this guy standing at the podium of a church. And again, I'm no expert on religion, but I thought you go to church and you're sitting in the audience, you're listening to somebody on the stage. They're supposed to be leading you and directing you and giving you the word. And the word comes from a text known as the Bible. And again, you up there are just a vessel for the word. It is not a vessel for you. It is not your personal platform. That is Christ's platform. You're just the voice. That's it. It shouldn't be you. It's the word. So this guy making this frame is completely ridiculous, first of all. Then saying, you're not concerned with my life. What did Charlie Kirk do to hurt the life of a black person? Nothing that I know about. Now, do we know about anything George Floyd did to hurt the life of a black person? Well, yes, we do, because he did time in prison for it. Y'all can go look that up and find that out on your own. Candace Owens talked about it in a video that went super viral like a day after George Floyd passed away. He did a home invasion. He took a weapon, put it into the belly of a woman who was pregnant, a black woman at that, and did a home invasion. He did time for that. He went to trial and did time for that. We went to court and he did time for that. So if anybody threatened a black life, it was George Floyd. Now, again, did this guy bash George Floyd the day after he died? I highly doubt it. And Eton Thomas, he went and posted this as if he was making a point. And this video has 8 million views, almost 8 million. Or this post that Eton Thomas posted has almost 8 million views. And he just posted this 2 days ago. Today's the 16th. Yeah, 2 days ago in the afternoon, he posted this. And this is the challenge that a lot of black folks have. This is what the race hustlers have done. They get black people super excited about anything that has to do with a racial back and forth. Even though, again, main thing with Charlie Kirk was not about race. He had opinions on race, but that wasn't his main thing. His main thing was conservatives versus liberals. But if a race hustler sees an opportunity to race hustle and draw some attention to themselves, they got to do what they got to do. Again, I ain't knocking this hustle. This is just the game that they play. So institutions firing people. They're saying what's at stake is workplace harmony. I don't know about that one. Safety. Don't know about that. Moral responsibility. I don't say that. I don't like that one either. Not necessarily politics. I do agree it's not politics. I think it's optics. I think these people getting fired is all about optics, and it's all about we can't look like we're allowing things to go hard on one direction, but we're not gonna let it go the other direction. We got to be balanced. We got to look like we're trying to be balanced. And I understand the frustration of some of the people who are being fired and reprimanded, because for about 4 years you were allowed to say whatever you wanted and nobody said anything. Now Trump won. Now all of a sudden there's rules again. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. This is just how it goes sometimes. You fail to read the room, that ain't my fault. Ignorance is no excuse. This is what's actually happened. Now on the flip side, there's concern about the chilling effects, they say. Individuals in media, education, or public service may self-censor out of fear of losing their jobs, which could undermine honest debate. I say people self-censor all the time out of fear of losing their jobs. How many of you right now have ever self-censored yourself at work to keep your job? Put me in the comments if you ever done that. If you have ever self-censored and not said something that was on your mind, or maybe you said it, but you just said it in a nicer way because you didn't want to lose your job, put me in the comments. All right, everybody in here has done that. I've done it. All right, and I'm an entrepreneur. I've worked at plenty of jobs. Before I became an entrepreneur, there were plenty of times I didn't say something that I was really thinking because I didn't want to get fired. There are times as a professional athlete, I didn't say something that I want to say to the coach. There are times I didn't say what I want to say to the general manager. There are times I didn't say what I want to say to a teammate. Why? Because I'm trying to keep my job. So let me just not say anything right now. Let me just be mad by myself. And I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Why? Because I want to keep my job. So this whole concept of, all of a sudden everybody's going to self-censor. Really? Self-censoring ain't new. All right, everybody's been self-censoring forever. All right, everybody does this. So this whole idea, people worry that you may face consequences for saying what's on your mind. Okay. Again, is that news? All right, people have been facing consequences for saying what's on their mind since they were 2 years old. All right, you say the wrong thing to your parents, you might get smacked upside your head when you're 5 years old. So you're 35, you know the deal. So social media is a double-edged sword in this. Yes, it is. People are now being held accountable for things they say on social media. Again, if this is news to any of you, wake up, good morning. This forces institutions because, first of all, something you say can spread very quickly and it can go viral. That forces institutions like your job to act fast and sometimes to act without full context. Is this true? Yes, it is. That you could say the wrong thing and end up losing your job because you made someone else, like your job, look bad, and they don't like the fact you made them look bad, and without getting your side of the story, they can decide to get rid of you. Does this happen? Yes, it does. I'll give you an example. There was a guy, I can't remember exactly who it was. This is when I was playing basketball. And overseas situation is always different depending on what team you're on. It's not the same as when you're playing for the New York Knicks or the LA Lakers. And this guy was playing overseas. I don't remember who it was, but he was a pretty well-known guy in the basketball space. And the team had dinner. And for dinner, he was given like this packaged up sandwich. It was like a sandwich that your mom might make for you to take to school when you were in 8th grade or 4th grade. And he posted a picture of the sandwich and he posted it to social media. He was kind of making fun of it. Like, this is what we got for dinner. Like, as a way of like saying it sarcastically. Like, this is what we get for dinner. A damn sandwich and a bag. And trust me, I played in places where that happened all the time. And he got fired from his job for that. The team fired him because he was making them look bad. He was embarrassing the team. He was making them look like they're not taking care of their players, and he was making fun of them. And I doubt he was doing it as a way of trying to make the team look bad. He was doing it as a way of just showing everybody, look, y'all over there living in America, y'all used to eating a certain type of dinner. Here's the kind of dinner we eat over here. So don't think that it's all fun and games in our situation here. I'm not saying that's how all overseas is. I understood his frame because I had dinners just like that. I didn't post pictures of social media of them. That way social media wasn't super duper big at these times. But when he did it, he got fired. Why? Because he made them look bad. And you make your boss look bad and they can source it to you, yeah, they might fire you. What do you think's going to happen? Haruna678, good morning over there. I appreciate you. So can you get fired without context? Yes, you can. Again, you're an at-will employee. So many of the criticized posts got reshared, taken out of thread or context, and sometimes weren't meant to be celebratory. Okay, I get it. You're still fired. Get out. Here comes security to help you. All right, you got to go. Put all your stuff in a box, and your key card no longer works as of 2 minutes from now. So you might want to hurry up. Now, some of these posts are deeply insensitive or wrong. That's my last point. When you mock somebody's death or imply that they caused their own demise by allegedly quoting them the truth of things that you want to say about them, many say that crosses the line of human decency. I would agree with this. And this is what I go back to what I said on Thursday. I said it on Friday. I said it yesterday. I said it again today. If you are celebrating the death of another person because you disagree with their positions, you've lost your mind. And what's happened here in the United States, I mentioned this yesterday, is that people have gotten so unhinged when it comes to Donald Trump, because this really is Donald Trump. Everything you're seeing about Charlie Kirk over the last 5 days is really about Donald Trump. Why? Because Charlie Kirk was close to Donald Trump. Charlie Kirk helped Donald Trump get elected. Charlie Kirk was a conservative defending and arguing on behalf of Donald Trump, and he was riling up a whole bunch of young conservatives to vote for Donald Trump. That's what Charlie Kirk did. Donald Trump won a larger percentage of the young vote. That is, I believe, the vote, which is people under 30, might be under 40. But the young vote for Republicans, Donald Trump won a larger percentage of the young vote as a Republican than anyone has in the entire century of the 2000s. That's an absolute fact. You want to talk about a fact? There's a fact for you. 2025, Donald Trump's young vote was the most any Republican has gotten all century. And one of the main reasons is because of Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. That's a fact. Well, one is a fact. The other one is my explanation of the fact. And people are so unhinged about Donald Trump that someone who helped Donald Trump get elected and continues to support him getting shot, people are leaking their emotions about Trump through Charlie Kirk. They're just channeling it through Charlie Kirk. A lot of people talking about Charlie Kirk were not following him, didn't listen to him really, weren't tuned into his podcast, didn't really have any issues with Charlie Kirk, the person. But when he passed away, people found out who he was. Oh, he's a big Trump supporter, and he was very prominent, and he got all these people to vote for Donald Trump. Okay, then I'm going to take my energy about Trump that I can't use yet because he's still alive and kicking. Let me go use it against Charlie Kirk. And as I already told you, if something like this had or would or does happen to Donald Trump, this is going to be the same thing times 100. If y'all think this is crazy, we talked about this Thursday, Friday, now Monday, Tuesday. We might still be talking about it tomorrow. If this is Donald Trump, we'd be talking about this shit for a month. If y'all think this is crazy. Because people are so unhinged about this man that they just can't control their emotions. That's what all this is. Charlie Kirk was not that much of a lightning rod. Yes, he was conservative. Yes, he was patriarchal. Yes, he was Christian. He ain't the only one. All right, these ain't new ideas. When did all of a sudden people get so excited about these things? All right, conservatism been around. Donald Trump been around 10 years. Christians been around. All right, Christians being against LGBTQ been around. All right, how all of a sudden people excited about that? How all of a sudden is this a news item? It's not. This is just an opportunity for people to leak the emotion that they've been holding in, and they're just waiting for their opportunity to let it out. It happened to be Charlie Kirk. If it had been Elon Musk, it would have been 50 times bigger than what it is now. Had it been Donald Trump, 100 times bigger. Somebody in Donald Trump's family, 75 times bigger. They're just waiting. People are just waiting for their opportunity. That's all this is. It's not about Charlie Kirk at all, and people are trying to use that as an excuse. Oh, well, I'm just quoting what he said and bullshit. No, you're not. Let's get into it, folks. I'm gonna forego the bathroom break, and we're gonna go. We may do overtime here today. We may get up to 10:30. Actually, I might need a bathroom break. Let me take a quick restroom break, folks. Give me 90 seconds restroom break. Then we're gonna get into the comments here. I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about. Give me 90 seconds, and we're gonna get to the restroom break. Make sure you text me at my number 305-384-6894. Then we're gonna get into some of our favorite stuff. And please keep liking and live. We should get 200K likes here today. I'll be right back. Give me 90 seconds. I'll be ready for the comments.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
So someone was mentioning that on YouTube they couldn't see the video. I'm going to check that out on YouTube because I know YouTube Studio was giving me some issues a few months ago, probably like February or March. I stopped using YouTube Studio because the videos were not playing properly. But let me check the last couple ones I did. Oh, yeah, you're right. So I see that. So Charlie Kirk Fallout is a minute. Charlie Kirk Hero was only a minute. All right, I will fix those. Those of you watching on YouTube or those of you who had issues with YouTube, what I'm going to do is take the videos from the last 2 days, Friday's video, Monday's video. I'm going to download them off of one of the other platforms, and I'm going to re-upload those to YouTube so that y'all had a full video. And this one today obviously is not working, so I'm going to get that one on YouTube as well. and then we'll go back to using Rumble Studio. I don't know what the hell is wrong with YouTube's live streaming platforms, but they've been screwing up for damn near the entire year. Or maybe it's something with my software, but I'm using every other platform with no problem. So I have no idea what the hell the issue is with YouTube. And I want to use YouTube so I can get the super chats and all that. But if it's not working, then we got to make our adjustments. Alejandro Santana, good morning over there on Instagram. B. Miller, good morning. Willa Vilas, good morning. Haruna, good morning. All right, TikTok. We are on here. Feed hour on Instagram. Good morning. AU Hunter said, historically, the problem with religion is that men are interpreting it based on their own biases. Well, what do you mean by that? I mean, it's not the topic, but what do you mean? Jasmine Carter said, I disagree with your concept of what the pastor can preach on to the congregation. It's not about what he can preach, Jasmine. I'm saying that when you are a pastor at a church, your job is to speak the word of Christ, not your personal opinion. That's not what the church is for. The platform is for the word of Christ, not what you personally think. Same way that LGBTQ pastor was talking about Donald Trump represents a lack of safety for those people. Like, that's ridiculous. What does that have to do with the word of Christ? Nothing. And last time I checked, ain't nothing in the Bible that says LGBTQ is even a thing. That's not even what the rainbow means. The rainbow was a symbol from God that said, I'm never going to flood the earth again. Not it represents people who decide that they're going to lay with somebody of the same sex or a boy becoming a girl. That's ridiculous. Monica said, as a believer, we should identify in Christ, not our race. I would agree with that. R. Philly said, did you give a straw man argument with the George Floyd? How so? B. Hutt said, you here for white people like and share. You don't know what black people know or feel. Oh, please.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
I don't know what black people know or feel. Well, I'm actually black, so I'm not speaking for black people as a whole. I'm first of all speaking for myself. Secondly, I'm speaking logically as to what logically and objectively makes sense. So if you disagree with my logic, then tell me what you disagree with. Being that you're one person and I'm one person, neither of us needs to claim to speak for a group. And we can speak for ourselves. But what did I get wrong? Ophelia said, Kirk believed black people should still be slaves. And really, is that the best you could come up with?
Strawberry cheesecake.
Strawberry cheesecake sound is for the straw man argument, when someone tries to reframe someone's point into something that they didn't say, and then they try to argue about it. So no, Kirk did not say that, and you can't assert what somebody else believes because you can't read another person's mind. Michelle B said, that's a lie, he did not. What are you referring to? Susie said, I have black friends that shared that video and it was further divisive. Well, I mean, the video itself is not necessarily divisive. It's just the argument is a false argument that leads to people thinking that it was about black versus white when it's actually not. Be Fair Today said, you playing a word game. What word game am I playing? Call me out. J Rocka said, Kirk said women are lying about being SA'd. Well, you had to show me exactly what he said. We can't go off of anybody saying what Kirk said. As we can see. As we can see. We can't go off of anything anybody said he said. I need to hear him saying it directly. I need the full context. Nicole said, how is it not about morals? What are you referring to? Let's see. I'm just reading the comments on TikTok. I'm reading from what I can see, folks, so I can't see every comment that came through. Billy Ho said, being fired of being a psychopath and cheering about somebody being unalived. Well, it depends on what they said. So, Billy Ho, it depends on how they said it. All of those things kind of. Billy Jean said, I'm a business owner and have self-censor. Yes, everybody self-censors. You self-censor even when you're not at work. You self-censor with your kids. You may self-censor with your partners. You self-censor with your friends. If you told everybody exactly what you thought, you probably wouldn't have any friends. Elizabeth Webb said, me, more than I like to admit. Fair enough. I don't self-censor that often, but every once in a while I will be tactful. But then a lot of times I won't be tactful. So it just depends. Juanito said, Republicans have had to hold their tongue for the past 4 years. The script has flipped. I would generally have to say this is true. Ophelia says, white shooter, white victim, white campus, white city, red state. This is all true. What are you intimating here, Ophelia? Say what you really mean. And all of those things do not mean that it couldn't have been a First of all, this guy, according to what we talked about yesterday, this guy was in a relationship with a man who is becoming a woman. So that means he's LGBTQ, which ain't conservative, and it ain't on the right. That sounds like the left, right? So a white person can be on the left. There's a whole bunch of white people on the left, more white than black. And you said a white campus. I don't know what a white campus is. What does that even mean? White city? Okay. And you said a red state. Okay, fine. What does that have to do with anything? Michigan technically voted for Trump in 2024, but it's Detroit. If something happens in Detroit, can we say, well, hey, it happened in a red state? So I see it looks like what you're intimating. You're not saying it with your chest. So I'm asking you to say what exactly you mean. But you putting these things out doesn't actually make a point, because as I just showed you, if some crime happens in Detroit, black on black, can you say, well, hey, it happened in a red state, so that's reflective of conservatives? Not really.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Tez NY said, I just don't share my views or beliefs. I work in school. Oh, I lost my spot here. I work in the school system and I don't agree with things. Yeah, it's probably smart of you, Tez. I would say you probably should keep it that way. Irma V, thank you for the Rosa. Carla says, self-censorship might also be called self-control. This is true. I agree. Sometimes it makes sense to not say exactly what's on your mind. We all said everything that was on our minds. We would all, again, be in a lot of trouble. Johnny Jimenez, thanks for the follow. Karina says, I had to self-censor on social media to abide by my company's policy. Yes, I get it. I think everybody self-censors in some way. I don't think anybody just says exactly what we think all the time. User Munchkins, thanks for the follow. Jasmine said, I don't judge, I just listen. Who said that? You got it in quotation marks. Who said that? Bon Wolf, thanks for the follow. Dana said, made them look bad, period. Shauna, thank you for the follow. Yo Kirk said, if they fired him, he just wasn't that good. No, I wouldn't go that far. People can get fired by being good. There's a documentary on Netflix I just saw about 2 weeks ago on the Dallas Cowboys. Their coach was named Jimmy Johnson. Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row in the 90s, and he got fired after they won the second Super Bowl in a row. There was nobody better than him. He still got fired. So you can get fired even when you're good. Johnny Jimenez, good morning from Houston. Fifth Element said, bosses are more sensitive than people realize. They can lose their jobs or customers. Yes. I mean, well, I don't know if bosses are more sensitive. Humans are more sensitive than people realize. Bosses are just humans. The OG McCoy said, is it hate speech or you hate? What does that even mean? Billy Ho, thanks for the follow. Pam Caggiano said, of course it is. I don't know what you were responding to, but okay. Jay Rocker says, celebrating and not caring are two different things. Yes, well, if you don't care, then you don't leave a comment at all. People who didn't care about what happened to Charlie Kirk haven't said anything, so they didn't get any attention. Nana said, the devil is a Democrat. Somebody said that yesterday. I don't know if it was you. Greebird91 said, people are so insensitive. I agree people are happy about Kirk just because of Trump. Sit. Yes, well, people, actually, they are insensitive because they've been so much indoctrinated to hate Trump and anything around Trump that they have become desensitized to anything bad that happens to anyone close to him or anyone around him or anybody who co-signs him. So they're so sensitive to Trump that they become desensitized to anything bad that could happen to or around him. Case in point, that gunshot that went past his head in Butler, PA last summer. Kelly said, not caring is still insane. You asked that as a question. Did I say that? What are you referring to there? Barb Stribley said, you are totally correct, 100%. Thank you. Dana said his debates were invigorating. You talking about Charlie? Yeah, I mean, if you were open-minded to hearing what he had to say. Not everybody was. 13 Red Ren AMP, thanks for the follow. Barbara said, liberals have no common sense, period. I wouldn't say the whole group of liberals. Some of them. Same way there's some conservatives who have no common sense either. And also depends on what you mean by common sense. Lucy Harris said, misdirected hate. Yes, I agree. Linda Stewart, Shay, good morning. Retired again, thank you for the reposts. K-Man Florida said, you are speaking facts. Thank you. Linda, thank you for the follow. Susie said, leftist Democrat, socialist, shooter, Christian victim, doesn't matter, red state, and white campus. Yes, see, there's a different way of framing the exact same situation. So that's why I was asking what exactly was meant when that person said all that stuff. because you could easily frame it the way that you just framed it, and it sounds like a completely different story, even though both of you are talking about the exact same thing, and both of you have accurate information. So that's how these verbal sleights of hands are very tricky, because you can fool people if they don't get the rest of the information. The OG McCoy said, to watch a fellow human be assassinated live and not feel empathy is weird. Well, that's because people are desensitized to it. That's the whole point. Linda said, I love that he encouraged open discussion. Yes, he did encourage open discussion, especially amongst young people. That was his aim. He was only 31. Fifth Element said, all lives are going off topic, even makeup. What does that mean? Paolo Davis said, the left or right children having a tantrum is really sad. Not all of them, just some of them. You got the vocal minority. The vocal minority are the people who make the most noise, ladies and gentlemen. I got to remember that. Most people who are on the left, you never heard them talk because they don't post on social media. The other group is the silent majority. Those are the people who have opinions, but they're not out there telling you what they think every day. The people who get on social media and talk every day, people like me and even you all who are commenting, we're the minority. Most people don't leave comments on the internet or say anything. So we got to remember that. Don't take what you see a few people doing, and anything you see on social media is a few people, and then ascribe that to the entirety of the group. The entirety of the group is quiet on both sides. Gwendolyn Calhoun, thank you for the follow. Monica said, you can't be proud to be an American without being called a fascist insane. That I would agree with. Tony Ely, thanks for the follow. Nana Cat says, like that jab and his boosters might have done something to their brains. Well, some people on the right took the jab too. Vivian said, you're so right. I'll say it again. I love that you are objective and honest. Thank you. Guerre Reber said, people just don't like to be corrected. Well, that's true. Nana Tifa says, nonsense. We hear what Kirk spewed every day. The hate-filled racism, misogyny, homophobia. Okay, give an example of what he said that was hate-filled racism, misogyny, homophobia. Give me an example. So you just made that accusation. Now tell me something he said specifically. Linda said, truth. That's all people are doing. Presented with evidence and they refuse to look at it. Well, if someone's already made up their mind, they don't want to look at anything that will go against what they already think. Feed Hour said, I'm from Nigeria. We appreciate the value and wisdom you share with us. Your guidance is making a real difference. Well, good stuff. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you. Angela Thomas says, still blows my mind. I think it's okay to be shot for your beliefs, but it's not fair they lose their jobs for their beliefs. Good point. And thanks for the follow. Jay Rocket said, why do people keep saying that he was Democratic? Who are you talking about? Who's he? Y'all would be best to tell me exactly what you're responding to when you leave your comments, and be careful on the pronouns because I don't know who or what you're talking about. Nana Tifa said, I'm embarrassed for you. That's a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
And it's also an emotional projection.
Emotional, damn it.
Abs Alator, thanks for the follow. Grieber said it wasn't hate, he expressed himself. Yeah, so I want to know exactly what people are talking about. What is this hate that people are referring to? The text number is 305-384-6894. It's in my profile, Fifth Element. If you just go to my profile on TikTok, you'll see the number. 305-384-6894 is my text number. Sorelia, thanks for the follow. Kristen Dawn Gallagher, thanks for the follow. 191,000 likes, folks. Let's get to 200K.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Shay, thanks for the follow. Michelle B said, I can't hear you. Can you hear me now? That's the Verizon man. Claire, thanks for the follow. Lucy said, first time listener, you have very good insight. Thanks. Well, thank you. You're welcome. Linda Stewart, good morning. Carla said, it won't allow you to pin the comment. Yeah, I don't know what happened. The TikTok sometimes can be funny. We're at 17% battery, folks, so we got a little bit more. I'm not going past 10:30. Jasmine said, I disagree. With what? What do you disagree with? Tabitha Michelle, thanks for the follow. Genghis Khan says, Zach, it's for God's word, not personal opinions. They are false prophets. That is correct. Elizabeth said the number 305-384-6894. If you just go to my profile, when this live is over, just go to my profile, everybody on TikTok, and the number's right there. 305-384-6894. If you forget, just go to my profile. The number is right there on the profile. Feed Hour, you can get that book by going to workonyourgamebook.com. The book you're asking about, Work on Your Game, and then the word book.com. All one string. Workonyourgamebook.com. Lucy Gray Hall, thanks for the follow. Sassy Patriot said, that was never said by Kirk. He was not a racist. They take what he said out of context. Well, of course. That's all they've been doing. Midlife Crisis said Candace Owens was one of his best friends. Okay. Yes, that's true. Candace Owens said that herself. Is that a good thing, bad thing, or are you just making a comment? Salty Hafer Studio said, women do sometimes lie about be specific. What are you talking about? Boris Frenchie said, we are fools letting the left and right divide us. Well, that division has already occurred. Wendy Whittle, thanks for the follow. Sean M said, repetition of self-censor, it is in Christ and Word of God. Iris MB said, Republicans have never held their tongues. That's a lie. Well, what Republicans are you talking about, Iris? There are millions of Republicans. We can't just put the whole group. Robin Zad says, is that Doc Hudson on your jacket? Love it. What's Doc Hudson? I don't know what you're talking about. Jasmine said, I don't argue or debate the Bible or politics, period. Okay, fair enough. Thank you for the follows. Chusa1225, Kayla Renee, AM, Amber Nicole, J and ATTS, Sean M, TLMB, Amanda, Shauna 10, thanks for the follows. Valencia said, true. AU Hunter said, always love your content and wise thoughts. Thank you. Patty Hunter said, exactly, and for something stupid. Trish, thanks for the follow. Billy Ho said, I misinterpreted what you were saying earlier. Sorry for my last comment. No problem. Patty Hunter, thanks for the follow. Loving Life with Kaylee said, thank you for speaking truth. You're welcome. Juanito said, Tom McDonald has a good song called The Devil is a Democrat. Now, y'all heard of Tom McDonald. I've seen a few of his videos. Michelle B said, I have a question. Now, Michelle, you should have just posted the question instead of saying that. Just post the question. Oh, that's what The Devil is a Democrat is? Oh, that's what y'all are referring to when y'all say that. Okay, now I get it. Got it. Jimbo, thank you for the follow. 7781. Iris MB said, all that you said is BS.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
Okay, tell me what you disagree with. All right, now I'm going to ask you to point out exactly what I said that was wrong. Now, if you can point it out, then if you're right, then I'll give you credit. And if you're wrong, then I'm going to call you out and you're going to get one of these sounds from my soundboard. So now you're on the spot, Iris. Tell me what I said that was wrong. Anastasia said, they don't understand that it's not okay to mourn the guy, just don't spread the hate. Yes, JDA Blue said, the hate is because of ignorance instead of being educated on the facts. Well, which facts? The problem with facts, everybody, is that you can pick and choose facts. David Kerr says, just because you hate something someone says doesn't make it hate speech. This is true. I agree. Sean M said, adaptable is more true and the total point in the grace of Christ's glory to the Father God. Okay. Michelle, does anyone believe that Kirk's death will be used by God to raise up someone bigger than him? I don't know. Shay said, full context is key. That's true. The problem is most people don't have the patience for full context. That's the reason why we have the situation that we have in the world these days when it comes to content, is that nobody has the time to take in full context. Probably said the strawberry cheesecake is incoming. Oh, yes, it is. A whole bunch of it. Heather said, instant follow. Just found you on TikTok. I appreciate how you host the discussion. Well, thank you, Heather. Me too. Iris says, speaking racist BS is not open conversation.
Strawberry cheesecake.
So, Iris, I just asked you to say what I got wrong, but you keep saying that you're intimating that you disagree, but you didn't say what you disagree with. So, do you actually have a disagreement? Deb King says, just found you today. Love your thoughtful discussion. Look forward to following you. Well, thank you. I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern, everybody. So if you like these, come back tomorrow. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. We usually talk about a current event, whatever's happening. And right now, this is what's happening. So, Kayla Renee said, smart people keep their mouths closed. Yes, I agree with that. Nagy said, your mods are fire. Thank you. Thank you to the moderators. Shout out to the moderators who are keeping the discussion civil and keeping people out of here talking crazy. Becky, thank you for the follow. J. Rocka said, that's what the right does. Blames all of us for what one person did. Who's us, J. Rocka? What group are you putting yourself in when you say us? I would be cautious of putting yourself in any group, because if somebody in that group does something crazy, then that reflects back on you. I would say, let's just say, I'm assuming you're on the left, J. Rocka, which is fine. If you're on the left, it's okay to have people on the left and the right in here, because that makes the discussion interesting. But if you're on the left, J. Rocka, you could just say, hey, I'm a liberal. Personally, I'm a liberal. I support liberal views, or I'm a Democrat, or I support Kamala, or whatever. But you got to be careful of putting yourself and grouping yourself with the entire group, because if somebody in that group does something wild, then that's going to reflect back on you. So I wouldn't do that. I would be very nuanced in that distinction. Memory B said, what's your opinion on Milo returning? Who is Milo? Yesterday somebody was asking me this. I don't know who Milo is. Y'all talking about Milo what's the guy's name? I forget his last name. The guy with the long last name. What is he, Greek or something? Whatever his name is. Y'all talking about that guy? Or is it somebody else named Milo? I don't know. If that's not him, I don't know who Milo is. And if it's him, I don't really know that much about that guy. I saw him I think he was on Candace Owens. I think he was talking with Candace, but I actually do follow him on X, but I don't really know that much about the guy. So if that's who you're talking about, I have no opinion on him, because I don't really know his work. Unless you're talking about somebody different. Lee said he wasn't homophobic, he just didn't agree with the lifestyle choices. Well, even being a Christian and saying that you don't agree with the LGBTQ doesn't make you phobic. Phobic is like when you're afraid of something. He's not afraid of it. He just said he doesn't believe that it's a thing. And there's a lot of Christians who believe that. And if you're actually following Christianity, it says it right there in the book. There's not even a debate on that. So, where was I? Karina said they also don't want to admit that they're wrong in front of an audience, so they stick to it. This is true. Humans do that. Iris says racism is not an opinion or a political view. Let's be clear about that. What is it? With the definition of racism, it's a way of thinking. So technically, it's technically defined as a belief that one race is superior to another just on the base of race alone. That's the first definition of the word racism in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and that's the one that I go off of. G-Ma said these people were indoctrinated in public school and social media. Well, everybody is. If you go to public school, you're getting indoctrinated whether you want to or not. Now, you can undo it over time, but you get indoctrinated if you go to school for, what, you're 5 years old when you start first grade, you're 21, 22, and you're, 17 years? That's a lot of indoctrination during your formative years. Barbara said racism is mostly taught at home. Well, it used to be, Barbara. Now you can learn it outside of home because you have a phone in your pocket all day. Alicia BC, thanks for the follow. J. Rocket said, why do people keep saying the title was Democratic? I haven't heard anybody say that. I heard people say that he was LGBTQ, which it looks like he was, based on what we've heard so far. And the LGBTQ flag is waved by people on the left, which is the Democrats. So that's the connection. But again, all of this is just allegations for now. We don't know. The guy hasn't spoken yet. Regina Faith, thanks for the follow. He's supposed to go to court today. Judy, thanks for the follow. Genghis said, my first time also, awesome live. Thank you. Susie Loreden said, J-Rock was a Democrat socialist. He was part of that organization. I've heard something to that effect. We're waiting for this guy to talk. Hopefully this guy speaks so we can actually hear what he has to say. KS Priest said, are you a Christian? No, I'm not. I have no religious connection. But I know how to look at things objectively, and I know some things that are in that book. As a matter of fact, I have a friend who is a Christian, active Christian, and she sent me a leather-bound Bible, which I have right here. And she was telling me just read certain books of it. I haven't gotten through reading certain books, but I have actually gone through and read some of the stuff in here because this is where a lot of things started. So I stopped using the highlighter. I'll start using the pen. But I started in Genesis, and then she was telling me read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So I have actually been reading through this, and you see my highlights right here. So I have actually been reading this. This is in the book of Mark. I stopped at Mark chapter 3, verse 24, but I have actually been going through this and reading stuff in here because logically a lot of stuff in here makes sense, even though I technically am not a follower of the religion. Double S said, let's put an end to the nightmare Obama 2028. Yeah, right. Obama is not in his prime anymore. Ashley Mack said, Candace on fire yesterday. And Candace is often on fire. Candace is pretty good. Juanito said, Obama started the division. I don't know about that, Juanito. I can't give you that one. I would say Obama's presence led to the start of the division, is what I would say. We're at 10% battery, folks, so we got to wrap this up. We're not even gonna make it to 10:30, I don't think. Let me see if I can put it on the charger. If I put it on the charger, I got to hold it up with my hand because this is on an iPad. I got it standing up. So, all right, we'll see if we can keep it going. I think Obama's presence led to the start of the division, and Trump's presence set fire to the division, and it 10x the division. Lucky said people are criticizing Erica. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Red said the feed is getting paused. Probably just because we're streaming in so many different places. It happens sometimes. Kelly, thanks for the follow. Jen A, thank you for the follow. Sean said the biggest voice media can keep us divided, middle us. Susie said, what happened to the saying, let's just agree to disagree? Well, I mean, the reason people have discussion is so we can find out what exactly we disagree on. So that saying still exists, Susie, but people now have platforms to have conversations about our disagreements that we didn't have in the past. So I like the disagreement. The disagreement I welcome. Why? And even if it's not me involved, because I want to hear the depth of the arguments on both sides of a disagreement to find out what exactly people believe and why there is a disagreement. Because sometimes often disagreements come down to small points of emphasis, small details. Julia Carey, thanks for the follow. 200,000 likes, folks. Thank you, everybody, for the likes. Getting the likes up here today. Kelly, thanks for the share. Lee said you have a calming voice and express thoughts so well. Thank you. I would agree with that. Double S said, Marjorie Taylor Greene said, let's divide the country. LMAO, what a loose cannon. Well, it depends on the context in which she said that. You pulled that out of context, I'm pretty sure. She didn't just say that. She didn't just wake up in the morning and say that and say nothing else. Did she? Bart Goodwin, thanks for the follow. AI3143, Purple Bama, Tia Nicole, all thanks for the follows. Genghis said, best live I heard in a long time. Well, good. I'm glad you're here. Come back tomorrow. Marky Man, appreciate you. Somebody tell me who Milo is. I have no idea who Milo is. Yeah, all right, so y'all talking about Milo. Yeah, where did he go? He went away? Where'd he go? I didn't know he was gone. As I said, I don't really follow. I do follow him on X, but I didn't really know his work. I see his posts every now and then, and I saw him post some stuff that looked like he at least has a brain on him. So I said, let me just follow this guy to see where he's at, what he's about. But I don't know anything about it. I didn't know he went away. I didn't know he came back. So I have nothing to give you on that guy. I heard him on the Candace show, but I didn't even listen to the whole interview yet. Ashley said, another great book, The Purpose-Driven Life. Yes, the book is very popular. Carla said, you're going to make me cry. Praise the Lord. Just keep reading. Oh, well, good stuff. Yes, my friend Charlene sent me that book. Juanito said, Candace needs protection. She's calling out France and Israel. Yeah, you're right about that. She does need protection. I'm pretty sure she has it right now. Ospowski Twin, thank you for the follow. Her said, how can I support your show, sir? Well, you can follow me, like the live, and get into my text community. Just text me at that number you see there. But other than that, I don't think there's much else you can do on TikTok for now. TikTok has a lot of bells and whistles, but I don't partake in all of the stuff they have. I don't 100% trust TikTok yet. Just for the reason I've been suspended 15 times in the last year for saying stuff and don't even know. They don't even tell you exactly what you said. Nan, thanks for the follow. Ashley Mack, I appreciate you. And you're a great state with no jab mandates for the week. Do they still have jab mandates? Shout out to everybody in Florida where there's no jab mandates. I'm okay said, why can't people just walk away when they disagree with somebody else's ideology? But because we got platforms now to debate and have conversation. Disagreement is not bad, ladies and gentlemen. Disagreement is a good thing. Disagreement is healthy as long as people can have respectful conversation. Like I even say in here, I don't mind if people disagree with me in the comments. You can disagree with me in the comments. As long as you can do it respectfully and you can just say what you disagree with, we can go back and forth. I mean, I know I have the power of talking and you can only leave a comment, but I will read your comment and we'll see what you have to say. But we have this so we can have conversations. First of all, you have the disagreement. Number one, and I talked about this many times. I don't mind when people disagree with me because number one, I get to show the depth of my position when somebody disagrees because I have to defend my position. It's one thing to have a position that everybody agrees with you. You don't really have to prove why you believe what you believe in. But someone challenges your point, now you got to prove it because now it's being challenged and you got to defend yourself. Number two is that when you're defending your position, you get stronger in your own position because now you have to push back against the counterpoints to your position. And there may be some legitimate counterpoints to your position. Just because you have a position does not mean there is not legitimate pushback to what you say. Charlie Kirk has certain positions, but there is legitimate pushback when you as a white person come out and you say DEI is a black person getting put in a position that used to belong to a white person who the black person couldn't earn that position. There are black people who would take that personally because it sounds like you're just attacking a black person for not being skilled when there are plenty of people who have gotten positions through DEI. They were skilled and they still got the DEI position. So it's a stain on the position because they got it through DEI. It doesn't mean that they're not skilled, but the DEI label makes it look bad. So when a white guy calls it out, it makes it kind of doesn't look right in a way that somebody can have a legitimate pushback to it. Even though I agree with Charlie, I do agree there's a pushback to it. And Charlie got to stand on that because he came out and said it. Or anybody else. If I say it, I got to stand on that because I came out and said it. The disagreement is necessary because you have to stand behind your point. And the third reason why disagreement is good is because the other person might actually have a good point that changes your mind. Let's not forget about that. Just because we disagree on something does not mean I don't have a point that you might say, you know what, I didn't think about that. Good point. And I might say the same thing about you. Like, all right, you brought up something that's a good point. I'll accept that. And I'm not even going to push back on that. It's a good point. That's the reason why the conversation is necessary. The challenge is these days is that people get so emotionally activated that you can't have constructive, respectful conversation. These days, you just got a lot of people just trying to slam dunk on each other. That's what you get on social media. There's a lot of people trying to dunk on each other and trying to get a gotcha moment and a little clip to post on their social media. But if you can have respectful debate, then people can actually learn something. The further challenge is there used to be a bunch of people who would do these respectful debates. They don't do that anymore because they're all trying to chase the viral moment. Everybody's trying to go viral now. So now you can't have long form respectful discussion. And even college professors these days, again, you see a bunch of them getting fired. They can't even have respectful debate anymore because respectful debate requires context. It requires you being able to steel man another person's position. That's the opposite of the straw man. Straw man is when you try to make somebody's argument sound crazy and then you argue against it. Steel man is when you take somebody's argument and you make it sound better and you actually support it even though you disagree with it. Nobody does that anymore because everybody's trying to get the win. Instead of let's try to get some understanding here. I'm pretty sure we probably agree on 80% of things. It's just the 20% we disagree on. But we can shake hands on that disagreement. You see it this way, I see it that way. Argument of racism, for example. Racism has like 5 different definitions in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So if I'm talking about the definition that says this is a belief that one race is superior to the other, and you're talking about the definition that some institution somehow has disproportionate outcomes for black people, we're having 2 different conversations. We could agree on 80% of it, but we're having 2 different conversations because you're going off this definition, I'm going off that definition, and you're not going to change your stance, I'm not going to change mine. So there we can agree that we're just talking about 2 different definitions, and they're both in a dictionary. So how do we resolve that? We probably can't resolve it, but we could talk about the rest of it and kind of get on the same page. So, but rather, that requires you have 2 level-headed people who are not so emotionally engaged in their position that they can't give credit to the other side of the argument. Now, can you find 2 of those people? If you do, where they at? All right, there's not too many of them walking around these days. At least not to have the skill to actually have these conversations. All right, 1 more minute, folks. Then we got to wrap this up because I got 10% battery here. Dana said, Candace is devastated. She definitely needs protection now more than ever. Yeah, she does. She definitely needs protection. Nan said, people get their feelings hurt too easily when disagreed with. Yes, this is true. Purple Bama said, people let their emotions overrun their logic. This is true. Danny says, social media is a curse and a blessing. Also true. Let's see. Genghis Khan, I appreciate you. John Dez said, you got a Samsung. No, I'm on it. This right now, I'm holding an iPad, but I got it standing up on vertically, and the charger is at the bottom. So to put it on the charger, I got to hold it up. So that's the reason why I got to hold it up. And the battery's at 10%. Sometimes this thing just gets drained. Okay, everybody. So I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. If you like this live, come back tomorrow. I will tell you, One of my books you can get is The Third Day, The Decision That Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. So somebody was asking, how can you support? Go get a copy of my book. This is really supporting you. You're not supporting me. You support yourself. Get a copy of this book. This book is all about how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. We give you the book for free. We just ask you to cover the shipping, and I will physically mail you a copy of this book. See all those red books on the shelf behind me? We'll mail you a copy of this book. Go to thirddaybook.com. Thirddaybook.com. We'll send you a free copy of this book. Book's free, cover the shipping. This book is all about how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. It's called The Third Day. This is my most popular book with professional audiences and entrepreneurial audiences. Why? Because every professional has days that you don't feel like working, you don't feel like showing up, you don't feel like doing your job, but you have to do your job. Athletes have this, entrepreneurs have it, podcasters have it, streamers have it, mechanics have it, maintenance men have it, teachers have it, parents have this these days. How do you show up on these days and deliver? Thirddaybook.com. We show you how to systematically and strategically show up and deliver even when you don't feel like delivering. Again, get that at thirddaybook.com. Also, to get into my texting community, I send out a text every morning called the Daily Motivation. I send one out every week called the Weekly Motivation. I will show you my text community right here. As you can see, I got a bunch of texts in here, and I'm trying to scroll. So if I scroll through, you see all these text messages that I got. These are all people in my text community. If you're not in, it's free to get in. I got all these people in here because it's free. Get in here for free at 305-384-6894. I do send out the weekly motivation every week. Daily motivation, we do that for $5 a month, but you can get in the community either way for free. Just go to 305-384-6894. Well, text me. Text the word live, L-I-V-E. Those of you watching live, text the word live, L-I-V-E, to my number, 305-384-6894. Text the word live, L-I-V-E. The number is 305-384-6894. You'll be in my texting community. When I send out the weekly motivation every week, you'll get it. If you want to get the daily motivation every week, you can. That is my direct text number. You'll get some, of course, we got some automated messages in there, but if I respond back to you and I'm actually engaging, that is me texting you. That's not my team. That's not my assistant. That is me responding back to you. So if you want to communicate with me directly, the closest way to do it is to text me. Again, the number 305-384-6894. Text the word live, L-I-V-E, to that number, and you'll be in my text community. That number is in my profile, by the way. The number's in my profile or in my pinned comment, whatever app you're watching this on, numbers in my profile. Those of you who want to see the replays on YouTube, I am going to download those from the last 3 days, and I'm going to upload them to YouTube because YouTube Studio is screwing up. I'm not using YouTube Studio anymore. They keep messing up. We'll be back to Rumble Studio tomorrow so that the YouTube lives work properly. And that's that. I appreciate everybody for being on here. Get the book, again, at thirddaybook.com. And we got a whole bunch of other things going on in my world. Again, my company is called Work on Your Game. Our main thing over here is coaching and consulting, helping people to command the room through presence and energy, confidence, discipline, and performance, all done through systems. That's what we coach people on. You want to learn more about that for yourself, for your team, for your company, for your business, or for your life on a personal level. Go to Work on Your Game University. That link is in my profile also over here on TikTok. So you can text me at my number. Get this book, thirddaybook.com. If you want to get coached, go to Work on Your Game University. We got a lot of stuff going on over here, folks. On top of these live streams that we do every day, talking about current events. So we will be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. Topic is always to be determined. We'll see if we're still in the Charlie Kirk news story. We might be, because the alleged shooter is going to court today. He might speak, he might not. That might be a story, it might not. We'll see. He's supposed to go to court, appear in court in Utah today. Other things may pop up. We'll see what's happening on social media. That's usually where I get my news from. So it's been 2.5 hours, folks. I'm hungry. I got work to do here today. I got a lot of recording to do today too, so I got to rest my voice. I will see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Appreciate all the new people. Shout out to the moderators. Thank you for keeping everything in order over here so that conversation doesn't go crazy. We got 200,000 likes here today. Shout out to the new followers who are in here. Do all the things that I just told you all about. And I will see everybody tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. Everybody have a great Tuesday. We are out of here. And TikTok is trying to tell me go live for 36 more minutes to reach the next stage in my live journey. That's not happening. All right. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
If you want to rock,
Bonnie Delaney. Good morning.